Watch the hands, not the mouth. The Epstein story explodes. People make noise about redacted files. He starts a war with Iran. The Natalie Harp story heats up. Suddenly, we're in a trade war with Canada. It's the distraction playbook. But this time, he's gambling with the entire global economy. And the idiot just exposed himself. Listen to the math. Listen, look at the timeline, the pattern is tragic. Using the military just for the sleight of hand magic. Whenever the scandals start heating the room, he points overseas and he promises doom. But the latest maneuver is completely insane. Dusting on the podium, straining his brain, threatening the globe with an economic D-Day, saying drop doing any business with Iran or the dollar is stripped away. But he slipped on the mic, made a stunning admission, said it blows up the system if it comes to fruition. You can't play chicken with the rest of the earth when China calls the bluff to see what it's worth.
Oh, the idiot exposed himself again.
Playing with the money of the working man.
He's bluffing with the dollar while the empire falls.
Building up his ego inside golden walls. They threaten the world, but the world's moving on. A desperate illusion by the desperate dawn. Let's break down the economics, keep the facts strictly honest. The US dollar is the globe's reserve, that's a promise. And give the country the leverage, the ultimate tool. But if you kick the world off it, you're playing the fool. You think China is gonna bow to the pressure? They rely on that oil, it's the national treasure. So they pivot the bricks and the rest, saying keep your greenbacks, we can handle the test. They bypass the SWIFT, trading gold to the yuan. And suddenly the American financial dominance is gone. You weaponize the currency to cover your tracks without realizing the system is ready to crack.
Oh, the idiot exposed himself again.
Playing with the money of the working man.
He's bluffing with the dollar while the empire falls.
Building up his ego inside
Golden walls.
They threaten the world, but the world's moving on. A desperate illusion by the desperate dawn. Now how does this hit the citizens trying to survive when the world dumps the dollar, inflation arrives? If nobody needs to buy the treasury bonds, the interest rates spike across the global ponds. That 40 trillion debt, the interest explodes, crushing the infrastructure and breaking the road. Your private mortgage shoots up to the sky. Your credit card payments will bleed your bank dry. Card notes get heavy, the middle class breaks, all because of a billionaire's reckless mistakes. He doesn't care about you, he cares about his friends, profiting off the chaos until the world ends. You threaten to remove the world from the dollar system? Go ahead, watch them build their own. You lose the reserve currency, you lose the leverage. And the American taxpayer foots the bill with skyrocketing interest rates. It's not policy, it's a cover-up. And the bluff just got called.
All right, everybody, here we go. Today is Thursday, August 20. What is it, Isaiah?
27.
August 27th. I couldn't even read my writing. August 27th, 2000. I was chicken scratch this morning, 2026. My name is Rob Carter. Welcome to the Future #1 podcast in America, where we explore the truth. We take on the establishment thinkers. We disagree with the two-party system. We'd like to change that immediately, and we need help. If we're going to get caught in the left or right paradigm forever, and we look at these false idols, that's why we play some of these videos about Donald Trump. Listen, you don't know what's going on in the world. You have no idea. So we have to be critical of our leadership until they do things that we can all recognize that are good. Right now, there's nothing we can recognize that is good. It's just hope and BS, in my humble opinion. Now, I'm hesitant, Isaiah, to continually play videos where they're mocking Trump, this and that and the other, because I understand the mind control that this man has over big portions of America. And I don't mean that disrespectfully. I mean, there is no tangible proof on the planet that this man is working on behalf of the American people. There's none. There's the Fox News narrative that people listen to, and you can determine whether you believe that or not. I don't. I think it's ridiculous. I see him aligned with people that I don't like. I see him aligned with influencers that make me sick, that lie to your face every day. When Mark Levin puts his arm around Donald Trump and says we have our first Jewish president, that makes me kind of squirm a little bit. And then he goes, that's true. Right. And I look at these things and I say, where is the critical thinking of my Donald Trump friends? I was in that movement for quite some time, and we have to begin to question it and be skeptical, don't we? Isn't that what press
Yes.
is supposed to do? For all those people that love Donald Trump and think that I'm the bad guy because I'm not buying into it anymore. Not saying that that you guys aren't right, because I don't know. I'm not buying it. I'm looking past it and I'm going, there's no way this makes any sense, because you would not align yourself with all of these thieves and liars. You would not continually make promises that you have no intention on following through on. At some point, I ask people to be skeptical, ask questions, not just of Donald Trump, because you're not going to get in front of Donald Trump. That's not going to happen. But all of these people, these Republicans that kiss his feet and lick his toes, remind yourself that they work for you. If there are things that don't make sense, you have got to ask them questions. When Bob Onder in Missouri shows up, when Eric Schmidt shows up, when Josh Hawley shows up, when Ann Wagner shows up, when all of these, Jason Smith, when these people show up to these little get-togethers they have every once in a while in the state of Missouri, have some cojones, ask some questions. You deserve answers to some of these issues that we don't get answers to. That's my take on it. Isaiah, you see anything different? Are we crazy?
No, it's it was pretty funny because I sent you that post from Matt Van Swole where Trump had retruth. Sorry, it wasn't retweeted. He put it out on Truth Social, his own platform, but he had retruthed Matt Van Swole, and it's funny because the post that he retruthed is actually criticizing
the party,
President Trump. And
it's criticizing the party,
the GOP, but who's the head of the GOP?
My point exactly.
Right, and then he's posting it, and everyone's like, "Wait, he's talking about you."
Here's the way I would like my Donald Trump fans to look at this for a second. Donald Trump is the head of the GOP. He is putting out into the world that he's fighting the GOP. This is the argument that he's making, that he is fighting the GOP. And yet all of the people that he's close to are the establishment within the GOP that have gotten us into this mess in the first place. And those are the people that surround him. Those are the people that he's endorsing. So you'd say, well, Rob, you don't understand the 5D chess. Well, I understand that Lindsey Graham is a hack, and he endorsed him. I understand that Mitch McConnell is a hack, and he endorsed him. He's endorsing and surrounding himself with people I have disagreed with for 15, 20 years. It's not new. I don't like these people. I've watched their careers. I think they're charlatans. Oh, so to put your arm around them and tell us how great they are and how we need to get Lindsey Graham back into the White House. Remember we had Mark Mitchell from Rasmussen?
Yeah.
He said that
just thinking about him when you're talking about being close to Trump, and he's someone that was close to Trump. He got in the office with him.
Exactly. Susie Wiles reaches out to him because he's putting out polling that is negative to Donald Trump, says, come to the White House. He goes to the White House and is at lunch with Donald Trump, and he said that all Donald Trump wanted to talk about was what a great golfer Lindsey Graham was and how wonderful he was at raising money. Now, that's an inside scoop. That's not 5D chess. That's actual conversation that Donald Trump is having. How many people out there think that Lindsey Graham was a good, solid person for the American people and wasn't grifting and lying all the time and trying to start war all over the world? Is that what Americans want? Do Americans wake up and go, man, who can we start a war with today?
I mean, he's on camera calling Benjamin Netanyahu on the phone talking about, how can I help you guys out? How can I get the Congress to help Israel out? Not how can we focus on America?
Clip number 6, real fast. Mike Johnson.
Yeah.
Mike Johnson. I was going to start with 3 and 4, but let's get Mike Johnson out of the way very quickly. This is this is the Speaker of the House. Now remember, because we'll show a clip when Act 4 Missouri comes in at 10:45 a.m. Central Daylight Time today. Don't forget Dr. Shiva, exclusive live interview with Dr. Shiva in about 20 minutes. But I want to start with Speaker Johnson. If for people around the country that are getting familiar with the show, you're going to come to the conclusion, if you pay attention long enough, that there is no such thing at the top, the decision makers, there is no such thing as a Democrat and Republican Party. It's just a government. You have you have rulers and you have a system. That's what you have. You don't have a constitutional republic. You do not have deconsolidated power. You have consolidated power around multinational corporations, and that is the way our system is running. And they're chipping away at your freedom every single day. People that listen every day know where I'm coming from, but I'm just saying, if you haven't come to that realization yet, just listen in, because this is all going to start to make sense to you. And when it starts to make sense to you, then ultimately we have to organize, or this is going to turn into tyranny. It just is. What if Donald Trump, all these people that are the Republican thinkers, what happens when Donald Trump loses the midterms because his base is disgusted with what's going on? What happens then? What happens when Gavin Newsom becomes the president of the United States and we have another pandemic? And they say, you can't leave your house. Everybody's going to die. Get your mask on. Make sure you get your boosters. Put that bubble wrap around you and the mask and the
booster
flippers
now.
and the visor and the football helmet and stand on the dots. What happens then? What happens at that point? Because if this works the way I believe it works out, we're going to flip this over to the Democrats here before too terribly long, and everybody's going to go, Rob, see, you needed to support Donald Trump. If you'd have just done everything that Donald Trump wanted you to do, we wouldn't be in this problem. And then they'll push it back and forth. They will continue to put out narratives that make Democrats and Republicans, right and left, tall and short, fat and skinny, educated and uneducated people fight with one another so that they can be $40 trillion in debt and fight for global resources with your money. Not for your benefit, for their benefit. That's what I see. Now, there's a lot of people that see it different, and I, not saying I disagree, but I don't see it that way at this particular moment in time. Here is Mike Johnson. The most important thing to Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House. Remember, this is the guy with the power. When you look out at the House of Representatives, they could be doing whatever they want every day. They're completely and totally irrelevant to our government. That's in D.C., that's in Missouri, that's in Florida, that's everywhere. They are irrelevant. The person that makes the decisions in the House of Representatives under this form of government is Mike Johnson. He is the Lord of Congress. Whatever he says goes. If he doesn't want to bring up your legislation, he's not. So whatever he thinks is important is what America must think is important, because he makes all the decisions for America. One man, Mike Johnson. Here's what he had to say just recently. Tell me what you think.
A critical ally of ours, and I think most people understand the necessity of this funding. They're fighting for their very existence. They're the only stable democracy in the Middle East. I mean, of course, for those of us who are believers, it's a biblical admonition to stand with Israel. We will, and they will prevail as long as they're with them. And this is an important, very important symbolic gesture and a very important replenishment of their stockpiles, for example, of the Iron Dome. The reason they shot down all those drones and missiles in the last attack by Iran is because we assisted with that. I think the American people understand the importance of that.
That's all he cares about.
The only democratic nation in the Middle East. Come on, it's biblical. We got to do this.
And they all say the same thing. We're run by Zionist ideology. That's what's making all the decisions. So when you say, okay, well, Zionists are ruling the world, certainly ruling America, what do they believe in? What are they trying to get accomplished? If you understand the way these people think and what their objectives are, then you could start to predict the future, in my humble opinion. I got to play this clip. We got about 16 minutes before we bring in Dr. Shiva, who I think is fascinating to hear from. I think Dr. Shiva is
notice
brilliant.
how suppressed we're getting today because of that?
Oh, everywhere. Yesterday, it's the same thing. And we just have to.
Today's worse. I'm like, oh my gosh.
It's
I
incredible.
thought it would be.
The shadow banning is just absolutely diabolical.
I put out an X post where I included Dr. Shiva's name in the post, and it's probably the least amount of views I've ever gotten on a post.
He has 320,000 now followers on X. And when I put out a tweet with 2,600 followers, I get more people to see what I'm saying than Dr. Shiva with 320,000 followers. He had millions at one time.
He's a genius too. He's like a Professor Jang, where he's got the whiteboard, and he's writing everything and helps you understand and break it down. I don't know. I learned that way. And so I appreciate it.
So do I. I do. And so I want to, we break down all of these people, even Dr. Shiva, Catherine Austin Fitts. We'll break them all down. We watch them. I was texting back and forth with Rick Babitz this morning. If you don't know Rick Babitz, he does financial advice for our show and for the program. And he said, he sees some tells with Catherine Austin Fitts. It gives him a little bit of pause. I see the same thing. I do. I see the same thing. So we pay attention to those things and we watch what they say and what happens. And sometimes, Isaiah, as I was explaining this morning, explaining my opinion, I guess I should say to Rick Babitz, sometimes if you're predicting things so precisely as Catherine Austin Fitts does, that could mean complicity.
Yeah.
Right. So I understand that. And so we're paying attention to these people. We'd love to get them on the show. We like to ask difficult questions and we'll see where we go from there. But again, be more skeptical of your government. Do not let them trick you into believing they're working on your behalf. All of the evidence is in over multiple years. COVID was the final nail in the coffin. where you can recognize the Sackler family and selling Oxycontin to kids. That might have been another tell for you. These people don't care about you. Not a little bit. It's not like they go, man, I wonder what the American people, how can we make it better for them? They don't give a nothing. They don't care. It's not their interest. This is global corporate interest. And then they have to sell global corporate interest to you so that you'll stay docile and fall in line. That's the system in a nutshell. All right, let's go to this question because I got to get this out. This is biblical, Isaiah, so I need your take on this. Let's start with Dr. Zhang, Professor Zhang, I guess they call him. A lot of people think this is a fed, that this guy is out to deceive. Jury's still out for me.
I've heard even CCP.
Oh, yeah, exactly. He went on to a podcast recently, and he says that he thinks the assassination attempt on Donald Trump in Butler was staged. Well, so does Catherine Austin Fitts and Michael Yan, and they're kind of saying the same thing. So I want to get your opinion on it. How many people think that they watched the Butler and they've seen all the videos of Butler? You see the assassin somehow get onto the top of a shed, take dead aim at the president of the United States with fans of Donald Trump going, hey, there's a guy on the shed. There's a guy on the shed with a gun. And then he gets to sit up there for however long and point his rifle at the head of the president of the United States. And then they only shoot him after he shoots 3-4 times into the crowd. How many people think that that makes perfect sense to them? And it's just another mistake by security, kind of like Charlie Kirk. They just, when somebody's pointing a gun at the president of the United States, they go, well, wait a minute. Do you think he's going to pull the trigger? Let's think about this for a minute. What should we do? Here's the deal, Isaiah. Security for Robb Carter. If somebody is pointing a gun at me, my security is advised to shoot them first. That's how I roll. I'm putting that out there right away. I want to make sure that if anybody points a gun at Robb Carter at an event, that my security, if they see that, they take immediate action. I want if there's 10 security guards for me, I want all 10 of them to take dead aim at the person aiming at me and shoot him right in the face. Okay. I believe that's what the Secret Service is supposed to do. And I believe that was what the security for Charlie Kirk was supposed to do. And neither did. And you should be asking questions as to why. Don't you think? All right. Here's what they had to say. Professor Zhang about what went down in Butler, Pennsylvania. Tell me what you think.
Was that the bullet grazed Trump's right ear and it bled.
Yes.
And then when he fell to the ground and the Secret Service was trying to remove him from the podium, he said, no. Like my shoe on my left foot, there's no, I need to get my shoe. And they let him get his shoe. That's really weird, man.
Right.
Like, if someone's shooting at you, get the hell out of there. Like, no, I need my shoe. It's my lucky shoe. That's retarded, right? And they let him do that, okay? So this is an anomaly. The right ear is bleeding, and the left foot is without a shoe. Okay. So if you go to the Bible, Leviticus, whenever someone is anointed for a special purpose by God, they have a ceremony. The ceremony is you first make a sacrifice to God, and you take the blood of that sacrifice and you dap it on your right ear as well as your left foot.
Right.
And that anoints you as the special agent of God, like the chosen one, basically.
Right.
So I think that's what happened at Butler. I think it was a staged event in order to anoint Trump for the special mission ahead of him. And he's doing it.
Okay, Isaiah.
Wow.
Number one, I don't remember anything about a left foot. So first thing I think, I get very skeptical right away.
Yeah.
It's not that I'm not, it looks staged to me. I don't know that it is, but it certainly looks that way. I mean, if it wasn't staged, they did a good job of making it look like it was staged as far as I can tell. If you watch that whole event and watch the press corps come in and recognize the circumstances, recognize the circumstances that it took to get into that situation, you'd say, well, that seems a little bit far-fetched, right? If that was a movie, you'd think it was ridiculous, but in real life, you go, well, there's no way they would put on a movie for us. That would never happen. But I think maybe they do put on movies for people. Anyway, what is your take on the biblical portion of that? And did he say, does anybody in the audience remember Donald Trump saying it was my left shoe that I needed? I thought he said I needed my shoes. I don't remember him ever saying anything about a left shoe because he's making a biblical reference where it's the right ear and the left shoe. And I think he just made up out a whole cloth the left shoe. I don't remember anything about a left shoe in the conversation because when Donald Trump is shot in Pennsylvania, he goes down and I think he says, let me get my shoes. Let me get my shoes. I don't remember ever him saying, let me get my left shoe. I need my left shoe, my lucky shoes. I don't remember any of that.
Let's watch the video again. I just want to
All right.
see. I just want to make sure I understand what he's saying here.
Was that the bullet grazed Trump's right ear and it bled.
Yes.
And then when he fell to the ground and the Secret Service was trying to remove him from the podium, he said, no. Like my shoe on my left foot, there's no, I need to get my shoe. And they let him get his shoe. That's really weird, man.
Right.
Like, if someone's shooting at you, get the hell out of there. Like, no, I need my shoe. It's my lucky shoe. That's retarded, right? And they let him do that, okay? So this is an anomaly. The right ear is bleeding, and the left foot is without a shoe. Okay. So if you go to the Bible, Leviticus.
Okay. I just had to hear him say that. Well, I mean, one, he's wrong already because it's not the right. It's the right ear and the right foot.
Right ear and the right foot.
Yeah, so it's not the left foot. So he's already wrong there. And then I think that he's really reading into this.
I think I'm starting to recognize that I'm not buying into what this guy's selling, and he's very popular.
Yeah.
He just did a long interview with
I think he's good on the geopolitical landscape and understanding that. But sometimes he ventures off. It's kind of like
it feels motive driven to me, though. That's what I'm saying. It feels motive driven.
Yeah.
Right. Instead of seeking the truth, it's motive driven. If you're kind of taking things out of context to convince people that this event was staged, that makes me wonder what's going on here. Whereas if you just give the facts as they are and say, here's why I think it was staged, then it adds a little credibility for me.
Yes.
That's number one. Okay. Then number two, let's do this. This is Michael Yon. I don't know if people know him, but he's an internet sensation. These people get their starts with Alex Jones. That's where they get their big platforms. They go on Alex Jones, their platform expands. Same with Michael Yon. Now he's doing a podcast, and he did one with Catherine Austin Fitts. Now, Catherine Austin Fitts, there are things that I hear her say that kind of pique my interest as to where she's really coming from, but she's predicting things almost precisely correct. And she's been doing it for years now. I've been paying attention to her. So tell me what you think of this. This is a conversation she had with Michael Yon. She agrees, and so does Michael Yon, that Butler was staged. And again, if you even go after the fact with Butler, Pennsylvania, the shooter, did we ever figure out that story? Was anybody in the Secret Service ever imprisoned? Because
we shot Thomas Crooks. He's dead. All right, move on.
Right. If you say there's a story there that where your security allowed for an assassin to point his gun at you and everybody got to see it and witnesses were pointing to the guy on top of the shed, you would think heads would roll. Literally heads would roll, because now you're talking about assassinating and overthrowing the government of the United States of America, or a candidate for president of the United States of America. And there would be some kind of, I don't know, there'd be hearings about it. There would be conversations about it. People would be going to prison. There'd be more, as I understand it, Donald Trump has kind of buried the story, and nobody even is really talking about this person who was supposedly the assassin. Okay. So here is, again, Catherine Austin Fitts with Michael Yon. Tell me what you think of this conversation.
Butler, it was so funny because Butler happened, the Butler event in Pennsylvania, right. And John Titus, who's my co-host in Money and Markets, he and I agreed that we wouldn't discuss it. We meet on Tuesday to prep for recording on Wednesday. And I said, John, I'll figure out what happened and why and come to the meeting. And you figure out what happened and why and come to the meeting. And we'll compare notes. So we got to the Tuesday, and I said, we both said that it was 99.9% chance that it was total theater. There had been no real assassination. But what was interesting is our reasons were totally different. He had like 5 to 10 reasons. I had 5. They're totally different. And then, so we go out with that on Wednesday, and then I go out and look around at everybody else. And it's like Michael Yon and John and Catherine. And it's like we're out here alone. And I thought, thank God for Michael Yon.
It was clearly fake. Yeah. Yeah.
But it was amazing how many people went along.
And still do. Yeah.
I don't know. Whenever Trump talks about it, everybody kind of looks at their shoes, and you can tell they know.
We're supposed to believe it.
Very interesting that she would come out and publicly, because that gets very controversial, right? If you say something like that and you have a business to protect, because she's got Solari and it's a business for her. She gives advice and financial advice and everything else. That's a very risky thing to do when you're trying to gain an audience, to say that the assassination attempt on the right now President of the United States, Donald Trump, was staged.
Yeah.
What is your take on all that, Isaiah? Because that gets me to question.
Well, there's a couple things. Immediately when I heard about the shooting and I heard that it nicked his ear just barely, I thought one of two things. I thought that's the greatest miracle that could ever happen in, the history of the world, basically, or it's staged. And then once you find out more information, someone else was shot before President Trump was shot.
Mhm.
Okay.
His family is questioning it, right? So this
Yeah,
is not just
exactly.
conspiracy
Oh, yeah.
theorists. The fireman that was Kimpatore or something like that,
Mhm.
whatever. I apologize for not remembering the guy's name, but the person that passed, his family says there's something going on here, and we want to get to the bottom of it. They're getting silenced, but they are
Yeah.
coming out and saying we're not buying the official story. We want more information as to what went on here, and they're getting no
The silence is what's, that's the loudest, I would say,
indicator.
piece of indicator. Yeah, because it's, wait, why are you so quick to brush this under the rug and not help the American people understand what really happened?
Does it not
Because we,
seem
we
odd?
already, because this is the administration that knows we don't trust them because they're the ones who released the JFK files, right?
Mhm.
So wouldn't you want to be the most transparent with something like this, with an assassination attempt like this? Because you're the one who's trying to, expose the deep state and show how they've kept these things hidden from you and not in the view. And so that just doesn't sit right with me or doesn't make any sense.
It feels very odd to me. I will say this: I have no idea whether it was staged or not.
And then the,
I-
the press, like Alu3 here says, the press getting shuffled in. That was very interesting.
Very odd. But
Yeah,
here's the
very,
way I would look at it. I would just say, common sense wise, all right. You're you're the president of the United States. There's assassination attempts on you all the time, and somebody takes a shot, nicks your ear. You get up. Secret Service comes in. It looks like the Keystone Cops, so it doesn't look like we have much of a security team. If you watch the entire, operation go down, I would be thinking that there's a legitimate attempt to try and kill me. And I don't think that I'd be, let me fight. Just get me the hell out of here, because there might be 3 shooters. There might be 4 shooters. There might be somebody with
Yeah.
a bomb. There might be somebody close to me with a knife. I mean, I would just be thinking, if somebody took a shot at me, I'd be wondering, are more coming? What is going on here? Is there an organized attempt to kill me? If
Josh
that's-
Hawley's a great example from January 6th, right? Sprinting down the hallway away.
Get the hell out of there. And I don't know whether it was staged or not. I'd like to think that it wasn't, because I hate to think that they've advanced it this far to where they're really putting on television spectacles for people. But I could certainly make a case
that John Kirkow clip that I sent you. That's what I always go back to, is things like that.
I could make a case that it was staged. How about that?
Yeah.
I could make a case. But I don't want to go that far. I really don't. I don't want to believe that. I just don't want to believe it. So maybe maybe it's just me, but I just don't want to believe that we've gone that far. Let's do some advertising, then we'll bring in our guest. Is he in yet?
Not yet.
All right, let me check on him real fast. He does come late every once in a while, because he's got his own thing going
he
on.
seemed to be engaged this morning, so I'm sure he'll be here.
Okay.
When he
All right, let's do some advertising, and if he comes in, we'll bring him in. Let's start with People's Lobby, Missouri. So we have the venue figured out. We will send out information to everybody, and we'll start putting it forth. September the 18th, peopleslobbymo.com. We're bringing in Phil Turney from the USS Liberty Vets. I think it's going to be a great event. Well, I know it is. It's going to be very emotional. You're going to learn more about your country than you ever have in your entire life. When you see a veteran of the Navy tell you the story of what he witnessed firsthand on June 8th, 1967, it will forever change the way you see our government. Did me. Once I realized it was real, and they have 17, 18 guys all talking to Isaiah and I, and how kind they were to us and how they wanted to get out their story, it forever made me change my opinion of our government. Because if our government allowed a Navy ship to be attacked by their greatest ally, Israel, and then told the people that were attacked to keep it quiet or face serious consequences, you think to yourself, well, wait a minute. If they tell me it wasn't an accident, which is what they said. They said this was no accident. This was an intentional attack. We watched it. We got to see the torpedoes come. We saw the Israeli pilots dipping their wings at us. We know what happened. And this was an intentional attempt to sink a Navy warship. And our government told us to keep it quiet. And now you see the Zionism all around us. You see Zionist ideology all around the president of the United States. I've never seen it more shoved down the throats of the American people at any time in history. And yet, if you go back and you start listening to politicians from the 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000, 2010s, and on to today, they've been screaming this from the rooftops for 50, 60 years. That our relationship with Israel is more sinister than it is benevolent. And I think if you pay attention to Phil Turney, again, September the 18th, Phil Turney, peopleslobbymo.com. Go sign up. If you're a member, we're going to get you in there somehow, some way. We're not going to do a ton of seating. I decided I don't want to spend $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 for a venue. That's not what we're about. This is this is basically a thank you to our audience, to our supporters, to our advertisers. This is not something you're going to get to see anywhere else. You're not going to run into Phil Turney somewhere else unless you're traveling around the country to one of these big events that they put on. But you're going to be able to take pictures. He'll sign books. He'll answer questions for you. I think it's going to be a great night. And then we'll also have Matt Thompson in, because I do want to bring to everybody's attention the story of Jeffrey Winehouse, an independent journalist that they tried to assassinate for getting too close to power. That's the way I see it, because that's the way it is. And I want people to hear from him. I want them to feel him, see him, get the energy, and make determinations, because after that, we can start talking to the audience about what they witnessed on that evening. peopleslobbymo.com. Very quickly, we are a marketing operation, a 501c4. We're a nonprofit 501c4, and the idea is to put pressure on our government to set the narrative for our government. Don't allow them to set the narrative with their amendments and their tax schemes and their nonsense. You set the priorities. You make them react to you, not the other way around. If we are continually backtracking against our government, eventually we're going to run out of space. At some point, you got to be aggressive and move forward and say, no, we don't really care what your lobbyists and your donors want you to do. Here's what we want you to do. And we are watching you very closely. And when you play games, just understand that we are aware and we are a-coming. Okay? peopleslobbymo.com, peopleslobbymo.com. Then we have Grace Halling, gracehalling.com, gracehalling.com, gracehalling.com. This is my good friend, Gary Schneider. What a great man he is, and what a wonderful thing he has done for me. He's been around for a long time. He believes in free speech. He believes in getting to the truth. He's a man of God. I said, what do you want me to say about your business? And he said, but for the grace of God, I would not have such a thriving business, Rob. So, you can, whatever you need to do. I said, all right, I'll just put that in there. Been around since 1998, thriving business. The reason you see so many Grace Hauling trucks, cans, dumpsters all over St. Charles County, it's very obvious. People like doing business with Gary Schneider because they pride themselves on customer service. He's a pillar in the community and just a great family, great man. GraceHauling.com, GraceHauling.com, GraceHauling.com for all of your residential needs. Remember, trash pickup, recyclables, yard waste, and bulk pickups. If you're a commercial business, 2, 4, 6, and 8-yard dumpsters. When it's rubbish, when it's trash, it's always GraceHauling.com. Then we have Rack Custom Coatings. Rack, I was talking to him last night. I'm going to get him hooked up with some of the school systems, because he does industrial spaces, retail spaces, hangars, schools. This is epoxy flooring. They can do designs. He's like a magician with what he can do with flooring. I like it for the inside of homes and garages. I think it just really adds value to the home. It looks so much nicer when you open up your garage door and you have this pristine floor. Not very expensive either. It's very affordable. RackCustomCoatings.com. He's been in business since 2001, locally owned, family owned, and operated. When it's time for flooring, if you're somebody that makes decisions for schools, if you make decisions for retail, if you make decisions for whatever you make decisions for, you should be thinking Rack, R-A-K, CustomCoatings.com, RAK-CustomCoatings.com. You can reach them at 636-398-5040. And let me get one more in before I see Dr. Shiva's ready to rock and roll. Okay, so we're ready to go. Let's do JonesWater.com. This is my good friend Everett Jones. Again, he's been with me from the very beginning. He heard me talking. He said, I like what he has to say, and I want to support him. JonesWater.com. Nobody knows more about water and air quality than Everett Jones, JonesWater.com. They've been around since 1995. If you are not protecting your home or business with air and water filtration systems, you should, especially in the year 2026. If you're drinking tap water in 2026 without a filtration system, I don't know what to say anymore. JonesWater.com, JonesWater.com, 636-899-1040. You'll be the filter, or you'll buy the filter. If you want to do business with Everett Jones on the Missouri side, it's St. Charles County, Lincoln, Franklin, Warren, St. Louis, and Jefferson. If you go to the east side, the dark side, Madison, Monroe, Jersey, and St. Clair. JonesWater.com, 636-899-1040, 636-899-1040. As he likes to say, you'll be the filter, or you'll buy the filter. Let's bring in the most censored man on social media now, Dr. Shiva. I love having him on. I love the conversations we have because I believe he is somebody who is active in trying to solve problems instead of complaining about them forever. Dr. Shiva, welcome to the show, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing good, Rob. How are you?
How are things going for you? Let's start with your Senate run. You're running for Senate in Massachusetts. You're running as an independent. You're on the same page with us. We think the Democrat and Republican paradigm is losing its luster. I think people are starting to figure it out. There has to be room for pragmatic people that want to accomplish things and don't want to talk about them and keep issues just ping-ponging back and forth between Democrats and Republicans. So what kind of traction are you getting in Massachusetts? Do you think you'll get a fair shake? What's going on?
Well, one of the important things is, Rob, there's a pretty large public broadcasting network most people know called PBS. They're hosting a national live televised debate, which will be in early October. So we were invited to participate in that, along with the Republican and Democrat. And this occurred, I think, right after we did your show a couple of weeks later. And they typically don't invite an independent, but because of the force that we've created in Massachusetts, I think they realized that if they ignored us, they were going to be losing all credibility because they're supposed to be a public broadcasting service. So they sent us a certified letter about a month ago, 4 weeks ago, saying that in order for us to be on the debate, we had to fulfill two criteria. One was we needed to be on the ballot, which is in Massachusetts, to get on the ballot, you have to get 10,000 certified signatures from individuals who are bona fide, voters. And then the second criteria they imposed was that we needed to make sure that we had raised $250,000. Now, mind you, they knew this debate was going to occur months ago. They notified us only with 4 weeks, okay, thinking that we wouldn't be able to achieve this. Well, first of all, in a state like Massachusetts, and this is true for many states, to get on the ballot, there's some process that they put forward if you're running. And typically it takes millions of dollars to get on the ballot. So, for example, in Massachusetts, in order to get on the ballot, you have to have people go out and collect signatures in front of grocery stores. Now, in Massachusetts, they make it very difficult. After you collect those signatures, you have to sort the signatures by which towns or cities someone came from. So if you're standing at a grocery store in Cambridge, you may have 10 different town people show up, someone from Arlington, Cambridge, Somerville, Boston. And for every person that comes, you have to have a different nomination paper. Okay? So you're
kidding me.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then after you collect the signatures, you have to then go to the local town halls. And there's 315 towns and cities in Massachusetts. So your volunteers have to drive all across the state, drop them off at these town halls, then wait 2 weeks, and they'll go through each signature, check their voting records to find out if they're correct. And they have a lot of flexibility, right? They could be very biased. Then you have to go pick up those signatures, which means you have to waste more time, gas, and money. And then after you get them, then you have to drive all of those to the Secretary of State. Now, most states, you just collect the signatures, to take it to the Secretary of State, and you're done. Massachusetts is the hardest by far in all of the 50 states. So the typical politician who runs, how do they work? They basically hire, which should be illegal, a signature collection company. Mm-hmm. These are large conglomerates, sometimes small companies, medium size, and they pay them roughly about $20 a signature. So you're looking at, you need a budget of about $250,000 to easily even just get on the ballot. So this itself is prohibitive. And by the way, in order to get 10,000 signatures certified, you may have to collect 20,000, right? Because some of them get thrown away. Well, we did this all on our own, and we've done this consistently because we actually have real bottoms-up support.
Yeah, you have ground support.
Everyone needs to recognize that Democrats and Republicans don't have any ground support. That's why their model is they go to the billionaire class, get money to their parties. And in order to get that money, they each create their own issues of divisiveness, right? One guy gets to take immigration as though he's going to fight immigration issues. The other guy gets to take on racism. And the other guy gets climate. Literally, they deal cards.
Exactly.
And then they get everyone jacked up on fighting each other because they have no solutions. And so money flows to them. And then they use this money that comes into their right pocket to go feed the left pocket of the media people who do their ads, the radio stations, and the sign companies. But it's all one set of people who go to the same golf course. They have no ground support at all. A movement like ours, so this year we said we're not going to go raise $2 million like we did in 2020, where we actually, it was all $1, $5 donations. We got on the ballot and they cheated our election. That's another story. But this time we said, we're just going to go people power. So thousands of people throughout the world use our phone systems to call in. We have ground volunteers who are going out to grocery stores and handing out these really great flyers, which lets people know, first of all, 65% of Massachusetts is independent. 99% of Massachusetts didn't even know that. And then we say, look, yet we keep voting Democrat and Republicans and we give the issues. So this is very powerful. Our goal is to get about 500,000 out. We're about 50,000 we've gotten out so far. So we still have about 10 weeks left. So we, our ground volunteers, gathered those 15, 20,000 signatures, and we were the first ones on the ballot. No news media reported on this. It should be huge news. Markey is not on the ballot, neither are the Republicans. We are the first ones on the ballot. So why isn't this reported? Second thing is, so we checked that PBS issue. And, we'd only raised 20 grand because why do you need money if you have people support? Just think about it. These campaigns, why is a Senate campaign raising $50 million? Because they have no people support. Their model is you raise all this money and then you pummel people with broadcast advertising and social media advertising to the poor average person who doesn't have any time. So you're just hitting them with these mind-numbing ads, attacking one guy for being a pedophile, which he probably is, and the other guy for being a rapist. And then they're told you choose a lesser of two evils. That's their model. And they do that between September 5th to November 4th. That is what they call a campaign. They have no one going door to door. They have no one handing out flyers. They have no one making phone calls for them. And if they do, it's a call center, in the Philippines somewhere doing it for them. Okay. They really have no volunteers. And so in Massachusetts, by the way, in the United States, 48% of Americans are independent. There's only 26% Democrats and 26% Republicans. The plurality of Americans are independents. In Massachusetts, actually, this number should be revised. It should be 67%. So 67% of the populace is broken from the Democrats and Republicans. Only 26% are Democrats, 7% Republicans, and they call it a blue state. It's actually just a brainwashing lie. And then
so that's the way it is. That's the way it is in Massachusetts. Those numbers you just gave us are Massachusetts numbers. Okay.
Yeah. So look at this. So it's a state of independence. And
I worked up there for 13 years, Dr. Shiva, and I got to tell you, man, it is the people that I worked with were very highly educated from Newton, Massachusetts, and boy, oh boy, in that office that I work, I love the people in Boston, by the way, they're absolutely fantastic. But man, they are very liberal, very Democrat oriented.
But that is only in certain locations.
Okay,
Newton is all liberal woke Democrats. Okay, but you go to the center. So what we did was we have identified. But if you stood out on a street corner, in a random street like Chelmsford, etc., you'll find out 2 out of 3 people at minimum are independents. But what they do, so the independent majority is brainwashed to say, oh, you have to vote for the lesser of evils. Independents cannot win, right? But the natural instinct of the average voter is to leave these two parties. 96% of youth now are independents. 96%. Okay. So, but the reality is that the minority imposes this mind-numbing narrative that people are dumb, they don't know what's going on, But the reality is, the big baby step that people have taken, they've left these parties. 48% in the United States, 67% in Massachusetts. So the traction we have now is we have people coming in from Massachusetts as well as outside. who are handing out flyers. We just had an 82-year-old woman who drove all the way from Michigan. Doris Devish, you can see a video, and she's handing out flyers, right? Gerald, who's a guidance counselor, drove up from Pennsylvania, right? And then lots of people within Massachusetts. So our goal is to say, look, because I'm so censored, even though I have millions of followers, the level of traction that I get has been controlled massively.
You should see what's going on today with us, Dr. Shiva.
Yeah.
We can see the numbers on our screen, and yesterday we talked about assassinations, and that got shadow banned everywhere and drove our numbers down. We put out a thumbnail that you're going to be our special guest today, and we're looking at, I don't know, Isaiah, a third, a fourth of our normal audience.
Yeah.
It's incredible how much they suppress you, which leads me to believe that you're probably onto something, because I know that it happens to Isaiah and I. We're very difficult to get out a message, and I think you're probably in the same game when you're trying to seek truth and you're trying to organize everybody against the Democrats and Republicans. For some reason, this system doesn't want to hear from you.
The unfortunate thing for them is that the cat's out of the bag with us, and this is why my getting out there more and pointing this out awakens people more, because during 2020, if you look back, I was the first guy who said lockdowns are bad, while Booby effing Kennedy was promoting lockdowns. Let's be honest, right?
I was following you, and I can absolutely tell people that's the truth.
So
I started following you then.
Kennedy was promoting lockdowns. I never saw Rand Paul anywhere. In fact, we told him we did the Fire Fauci campaign. Rand Paul didn't even want to retweet it. Then he waited 1 year to use our hashtag to raise money. You go through every major issue, the backdoor portal to Twitter. We were the ones who discovered that. But during that 2020 period, before they'd figured out who I was, we got 1 billion views, unique views across our videos. So then they said, shit, this guy is not in the left or right camp. But the problem for them is during that period, if you go to Massachusetts, 80% of people know about us, right? Oh yeah, Dr. Shiva, fake Indian, real Indian campaign, or he's the one who did the Fire Fauci. Nurses will say, oh yeah, he came and helped organize our protests. So by doing the shadow banning, they're further exposing themselves. It's not like I was telling the truth and they censored me from day one, because they hadn't gotten that good at it, Rob. It's that after the fact that they're doing. So it's a great opportunity to expose this, okay? So that's what's powerful about this. So, and what we're now galvanizing people to teach them is, when you go out physically into the multidimensional world called the physical world, and you hand out one of these flyers, you have to learn how to be a human being. So I do trainings. I got to do a training today. So we had one guy, nice guy, who's handing out flyers, and he'd slump over, look like Quasimodo, and maybe 10 people were taking his flyers. So I said, hey, look, you need to stand up straight. You need to look people in the eye, and you need to learn how to talk to them. And, he'd been behind social media for so many years, he forgot all this. Mm-hmm. And you can see his transformation in 30 minutes. I have pictures. It's very interesting to look at his physical change. And his numbers went up from handing out 20 flyers an hour to doing 80 to 90. You see? So people start having these transformations when they physically have to interact in this world. And the goal of the establishment is to have people all day long on social media, all day long, thinking that this medium is real, and ignoring the fact that there's physical people, working people, actually doing real stuff, not fake stuff. So that is the opportunity that we have. So it's a lot of effort to mobilize people, but this flyer is a huge opportunity for people to stand in front, say, hi, independent for U.S. Senate, thank you. And that's what people enjoy, And what's interesting is someone, yeah.
I was going to ask you, you'll be on stage in this debate in October.
Right,
Do you have
live,
the exact date?
National debate, but I'm not going to believe it until I'm on, you see? So we achieved in 4 weeks, we went from $20,000 to $270,000. We raised close to $250,000 in 30 days, which is almost, about 8 to 10 grand a day, just by going offline, going through our own channels and getting people to mobilize. That's pretty awesome, right? So now our campaign negotiators are negotiating with PBS. Where will I get to stand on the stage? Well, you could argue that I'm representing the 67%. Shouldn't I get center stage? Mm-hmm. These two other guys are only 26%. So it's going to be interesting. We will see if we're actually on the stage. Because remember, these guys are cheaters. They're cheaters. We don't believe anything until it happens. You say?
Right. Mm-hmm.
So that's the first thing. So I would say we're doing well. The big thing is for everyone listening out there, you're welcome to help make phone calls. You can go to shivaforsenate.com and volunteer. You're welcome to donate. And if you know people in Massachusetts, get them off their buns and get them out there helping us. But our campaign, Shiva for Senate, is giving people an opportunity to be human again. And, the three themes that we're hitting on that's really resonating is innovation. The second one is immigration in a positive way. And then obviously independence. And I think, Rob, when you look at the history of this country, and this is not against people who were born here, but when you were an immigrant, I was a first generation immigrant. I came here when I was 7. Grew up in Jersey, played baseball, right? Mowed lawns, all that kind of stuff, right? But when you come here as an immigrant and you really work hard, you have a much greater appreciation for this country. You become a true American. Because remember, all the founders were immigrants. Okay, they came from England. And then unfortunately, I would say more than if you're born here, because you take a lot of stuff for granted. And so the immigrant trajectory, coming from India, where my parents were quite extraordinary people. My mom was the head of a math department. My dad was a serious engineer. The typical immigrant who comes has a shitty world. They don't have to leave, right? My parents actually had a good life, but they left in spite of that because they valued this country, particularly freedom, and they wanted something better for us. So when we came here, we moved to Paterson, New Jersey, in a 1-bedroom place where we had to go get coal to fire up the little stove, which fed us and heated us, right? And so you went from that all the way to MIT, right? And that's the immigrant journey where you work hard, you set a vision, and you set a goal. That concept, the Democrats and Republicans want to destroy. You have one class of Republicans, like Jared Kushner, Ivanka Trump, who are basically birth lottery recipients. They would never survive in a real America, ever, because they have no skills, right? They are basically Nepo babies. So they are in some ways communism, right? You could say they are living the communist life because they got everything for free, everything. And on the other extreme, the AOCs and the Bernie Sanders are also wanting to give that kind of quote unquote communism to the mass of people, putting them on welfare. And the majority of the working class people are the ones who are supporting these two extremes. And that majority are independent voters, 48% plurality in the United States and 67%. So it is a hardworking people who support this country. And the number one theme of America was not only immigrants, number one. Number two was innovation. It is the American infrastructure for innovation. The founders laid down an amazing patent system. So innovators would get rewarded through royalties for anything they created. Give you an example, MIT alone, I don't know what the numbers are now, but up until 5 years ago, 33,000 businesses came out of MIT. Those 33,000 businesses today contribute nearly $2 trillion to the United States economy, $2 trillion. So it shows that when we have the right policy of supporting bottoms-up innovation and the right patent system, which rewards innovators, you actually can make tremendous wealth. And that's why the United States generated so much wealth. But recently, companies like Facebook, Google, Elon Musk, all these guys want to destroy the patent system and move to trade secrets, which means only the wealthy few companies will protect everything. So this is a very important thing. And as the invention of email is coming up on August 30th, 1982. That's when I got the first copyright recognizing me as the inventor of email. But where did I do email? It wasn't done at MIT. It wasn't done at Harvard. It wasn't done in the military industrial complex. It wasn't done in Silicon Valley. It was done by a 14-year-old kid who was given access to infrastructure. Where? In Newark, New Jersey, where a place nothing's supposed to come out of, right? And in that environment, I was given access to computers, mini computers, by some amazing people, scientists who saw me as a 14-year-old kid who had gone to NYU, was working hard, by loving parents, and I was given infrastructure. It was in that triangle of infrastructure, collaboration, and family support that the invention of email took place. That truth goes against the false narrative that Republicans and Democrats want to push, that all innovation comes from the military industrial academic complex, that you must go to MIT, you see, and then you can be a dropout, or you can be a dropout at Harvard, and then you can get to go create stuff. That's cool. But the truth about innovation occurring anytime, any place by anybody, that goes against the broad, mind-numbing attempt of these people to try to sucker everyday people to thinking that you are not smart, you can't innovate. And that's why my story is very powerful. August 30th will be the 40th anniversary of the invention of email, what I created in 1978. But that is actually the American model. It was Philo Farnsworth, a 14-year-old kid who invented TV on a small farm in Franklin, Idaho. You go look at the history of American innovation, it came from bottoms up people. It wasn't top down. I mean, Elon Musk has innovated zero, but he's promoted as some innovator by Walter Isaacson, okay, who is a scam artist who writes the biographies of people to consolidate that innovation comes from the few. In his last book on the inventors of the digital revolution, while my fabricated controversy took place after my stuff went into Smithsonian, after 35 years of me not promoting the invention of email, you could see Isaacson writes a book on behalf of the swarm, telling people that the innovators of the digital revolution came from the military industrial complex. And he leaves the story of email out of it. Okay? So the invention of email, my journey as an innovator, speaks to what America is about. And people like Benjamin Franklin, Jefferson, all these guys were innovators. They had skills and they created stuff. That's where wealth comes from. It does not come from lawyers. In Massachusetts, one lawyer, Markey, I don't even know what legislation he's ever passed. Another guy, a carpetbagger, Republican they brought in, right? He's a litigator. But litigation and legislation do not lead to innovation, by in and of themselves. It is, and so a lot of these policies for innovation have been destroyed. So this brings us to, for example, AI. You see, AI is a very powerful tool, just like electricity was, right? Or computing was, the internet. And the more that's dispersed among more people, innovation can occur faster, cheaper, and in a multitude, in a very robust way. So I'm not against data centers. I'm just saying the compute for AI should be made free, accessible to everyone. What's going to happen is just like what happened with the internet, where we were all supposed to have our own websites, be able to directly access people. It got consolidated into 4 companies: YouTube, Google, right, Facebook, etc. And the AI compute is in the middle of being centralized. So the policies that need to be done is AI and internet compute need to be absolutely free. So you could argue that I believe in a bookend economy of quote unquote communism at the ends for 0 to 18. Shit should be free for everyone, not just for Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump. Everyone should get the highest quality education, vote tech opportunities, everything possible, 0 to 18. And then at the extreme of 70 plus. But in between, we need to have a really robust market competitive economy. So you shouldn't be penalized if you didn't grow up as Donald Trump or Ivanka Trump, right? Or if you grew up in a family where your parents were nuts, alcoholics. The child should have every opportunity to succeed. But after 18, people should be incentivized to go create, produce, innovate, and make as much money as they want, But we should take care of our elderly after 70, right? I live in a town where it becomes unaffordable. The property taxes are 28 grand.
It's happening here.
Yeah. So older people, and it's happening because these large companies, BlackRock, come in, they're buying all the homes.
Yep.
And they're consolidating. So it's not about socialism or not socialism, communism. It's about what's right. What's right is we need to have a real market economy. Jared Kushner doesn't have to compete. Donald Trump really didn't have to compete. Bernie Sanders never had to work. Okay? So both of these characters on the left and right are all part of the same clique who actually never had to really compete and work. If they really had to compete in a fair world, none of them would win. So we're creating an America which is weak, not because of the middle working class who works, but because of these extreme guys who actually do not work. And I can see this so clearly as an innovator who's made every wealth I have from making things. I created email, created Echo Mail, created Cytosolve, a new technology I have, Systems Health. We're the ones who created the Clean Food Certified Seal. So my entire existence comes from creating something out of nothing, which is what America was about. Their wealth comes from manipulating the system, never having to work. I mean, look at Donald Trump Jr. I mean, this guy's a complete scumbag. he's getting, DOD checks written out to him for loans. Jared
Why do you
Kushner
think?
getting.
Why? I was going to ask you about that before you go too much further. Why do you think that people are ignoring that? I mean, this is right out in the open. It's not like there's some
Because
secret left trying to frame these people. It's right out there in your face. You can see it.
Because
they're telling you they're doing it.
Because it's a way of not telling the whole picture. It's easy to attack the leftists who want to, and Elon Musk is promoting UBI, which is universal basic income, right? But it's easy then not to, expose the right, which is also doing, the right is living off communism and the left is living off quote unquote communism. When you think about it, I mean, you're born as Jared Kushner. I mean, I want to use him as a great example because it's good to have people have a mathematical model of this. He came to Cambridge. He would never have gotten into Harvard. His father paid $2.5 million to get him in. Then while he was here, he was a slumlord. And now he gets hundreds of billions of dollars loans, free, low interest loans from the Saudi government. I mean, this is un-American. These people hate America because if they love this country, they would not do that. But that is ignored because you want to create this dialectic of left versus right when both extremes are profiting off manipulating the system and not being real Americans. Real Americans work, we gather skills, we innovate, not sit on the sidelines and move capital around all day. Okay?
Right. That's how all these people are getting wealthy. Yeah, that's how they get wealthy is they move capital around. It's
right.
Right. I think it's almost diabolical because you're right. You put no effort in anything. You have inside information about how to manage the stock market and so forth. And these people make hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars without lifting a finger to do any work.
This is innovation. Okay. I go out, I'll go out today in the hot sun and train people. Now, an MIT PhD who's running for Senate, these guys would never do that if they had the credentials I did. Oh, I'm going to hire a company. But to me, this is innovation. This piece of paper, teaching people how to do this and the importance of getting in front. That's innovation, Rob. To them, innovation is getting 50 million, calling up their friends at Fox News or CNN, giving this ad and hiring a Madison Avenue agency to make them something they aren't, right? A character who's out there, shoveling something, right? They have a PR agent saying, okay, now go run around back and forth, acting like you're a Navy Marine who's into exercise. Now go kiss some babies. Now do this. They're fictitious characters. There's no innovation there. There's no hard work.
Yep,
They're cheaters.
I see it the exact same way. I gotta ask you though because I want to get a bunch of questions in for you. First of all, let's say that you win and you become the sitting senator, the junior senator from Massachusetts. What is your agenda? Because I see most of that as a puppet show. Isaiah and I just went there. We walked the halls of Congress. We had a conversation with Thomas Massey. We had a conversation with Randy Fine. Isaiah and I made commentary. You could hit golf balls down the halls of Congress. There's nobody there. Isaiah and I were there as journalists, and we walked around with the USS Liberty vets, and there's nobody there. I'm like, where are the people of America? This is the most powerful nation in the world, apparently. And this is the capital, and you're supposed to be soliciting your senators and congresspeople. There's nobody there. There's nobody there. I mean, it was incredible. And I just wonder what's going on in our country. I think it's primarily theatrics that go on in Washington, D.C. If you're to get in there, what issues are you going to take on? Are you going to expose some of these people? If you're the next senator from Massachusetts, what are your goals? What do you try to get accomplished?
Right. So, Rob, the interesting thing is a friend of mine, I've known since I was 13 years old. One of our people in our movement, in our Senate campaign, I was talking to her and she said, oh, hey, can you tell me how Dr. Shiva was when you knew him when he was 12? And she said, Dr. Shiva has not changed one bit. He's the same person. So nothing is going to change, Rob. But think about what I've already done, Rob, over the last even 10 years politically, right? If we can even go back, I was the one who exposed the backdoor portal to Twitter globally. We were the ones who helped 200 million people boost their immune system with the protocol I came up with, that we went direct with people. We were the ones who exposed the real issues on election integrity, which is the deletion of ballot images, with Harmeet Dillon and Todd Blanche do not want to address. They want to talk about voter ID, but forget about the fact that ballot images are being deleted and they're not enforcing it, right? So when you go down the list of things that I've already accomplished, in spite of the shadow banning, what will I do? Well, we'll continue that process. So one of the things people need to understand is that if you actually go ask very smart people within the establishment and outside, intellectuals, and you ask them who are the 100 most powerful people on the planet, they will tell you it is the 100 United States senators. The 100 US senators have incredible power. Incredible power. They are on par with the president of the United States when you look at from a power standpoint what they can do. They can call investigations. They can not go with unanimous consent. Right now, all the senators, by and large, when a vote comes, there's never any disagreement. They do what's called unanimous consent. Oh, we all agree to this. And they do that because they all have deals, backroom deals, to give money to each other. So they're all one big mafia organization, okay?
Right.
And to the extent Rand Paul barks, all he says, end the Fed, but he's profiting off of this too, okay? All of them. None of them exercise. There's 4 or 5 powers they have. They do not exercise at all. So think about what we've done without all of those powers, Rob. We're the ones who expose the fact that government has a, unholy alliance with social media companies in 2020. We won a federal lawsuit on that, got a preliminary injunctions, and now we're the ones who are exposing that it is election officials who are deleting ballot images. And the DOJ and the secretaries of state, Republican and Democrat, are in collusion. Okay? So what would I do as U.S. Senator? Well, first of all, you use that platform, which can have a global reach, to educate people. Mm-hmm. That's what minimum we can do. So imagine me doing, you and I would, what would I do? We would do these lives. I mean, I'm giving a real scenario.
I would be in your office doing interviews with you on a continual basis.
So once a week, we would do an interview. But now you're doing it as Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai, MIT PhD, U.S. Senator, right? We would conduct an investigation, a real one, on why ballot images are being deleted. We would conduct a real investigation on why that 300% of people who play golf get ALS more than not normal people. Why is it 125% increase in Parkinson's around a golf area? Why is it we would call Kennedy up and say, you just spent taxpayer money flying down to Florida and doing a shindig talking about you're for clean agriculture, while your administration just passed 3 pest herbicides, which are called forever chemicals, and one of them which is banned in Europe. Who are you? Who are you working for? Are you not a Trojan horse? In fact, Kennedy, we would expose, not from the left or right, but he's a Trojan horse supported by big ag and big pharma to act like he's fighting for MAHA, while on the back end, the mRNA flu vaccine just got passed, right? Which is a broad-based vaccine, worse than even COVID. He didn't get rid of the mRNA platform. His FDA just did that. So these are the kinds of So given what I already do in exposing a fake hero like him, we would do that broadly. We would bring up Elon Musk and say, okay, let us talk about SpaceX. How much subsidies have you gotten? Is SpaceX truly a private company, or is it a extension of government and the military?
Aren't they all, Dr. Shiva? I mean, that's what I talk about. Google and Facebook, they're all extensions of the federal
what's
government.
really happening is that the Constitution is being attacked in a very clever way.
Yes.
You see, when the government silences speech, we can go after the government. But the government is laundering censorship to private companies.
That's right.
Okay? So they create private companies now like Starlink to own the entire satellite network. If the United States government owned the satellite network and they were manipulating Americans, we could sue them. So they are laundering censorship. These are the kinds of investigation we do. So think about the content I already generate and educate people on. Imagine we could educate 8 billion people, Rob, and then you give people the understanding of how for them to become conscious citizens. So I would use that Senate seat to talk about here are the real policies for innovation, what the founders wanted. I would obviously propose legislation. And then when they attack the legislation, we would do videos all day long exposing the person who attacked it, who funds him, right? That's what we could do with the United States Senate seat.
First of all, I agree. So, I've talked about this even in Missouri. I said, What you need to do is get in there and educate people. You need to get in there and expose what is happening and stay dogged on it so that people understand what the system that they're living in. Because you got to admit, Dr. Shiva, most people have no idea what we're talking about. If people just off the street, 90% of the people came off the street and listened to us have a conversation, they wouldn't even know what we're talking about. When you're talking about deleting ballot images, we talk about elections in Missouri all the time. We've been fighting the election schemes in the state of Missouri, and neither Democrat nor Republican, even though they say they want to fix the system, they don't do anything. I mean, absolutely nothing.
But
And it
what's
just makes you
interesting-
wonder what's going on.
What's interesting, Rob, is if you go to winbackfreedom.com, that's when I did the entire lawsuit by myself, exposing, we took on 7 lawyers, and we exposed the fact that the government of the United States has an unholy alliance with social media companies, okay? As I call him, F.R. Carlson. I don't know if I'm allowed to curse here, right?
You can say whatever you want on it. It's
Well,
podcasting now.
Tucker Carlson's a fake CIA. It's basically part of the CIA, okay?
Mhm.
And you can go to the site. When we exposed that and we won our preliminary injunction, we told Tucker Carlson, Glenn Greenwald, the so-called investigative people, and they suppressed the news. Now, by doing that, we educated people. These people aren't agents of change. And we educated people on the fact that there is this unholy alliance, right? And it lets people realize what they can do on their own, Rob. And this is the most important thing. This is what America was built on, right? The reason, I mean, I think you put out this thing, I'm the most shadow banned or the most censored person. So let's understand why. And once you understand why, it's very inspiring. The reason is a guy like me who did really well in school, started all these companies, won every freaking award at MIT, got 4 degrees, not 1 degree, 4 degrees, and a PhD. I'm supposed to be part of the establishment, right? And I should, in that model of success, you're always kissing someone's ass or you're compromising, right? You're told to keep your mouth shut after you get into this position of power, then talk your politics, right? This is what, I can't say that now. If I did that, I'd lose my Hollywood status or I'd lose my professorship. The difference with me, Rob, is I have succeeded by all their criteria, monetarily, right? Financially, right? Educationally, in all realms, yet being myself and attacking them. You see what I'm saying? This is not something that you want to promote. You cannot promote the fact that this guy lived the American dream as a true American, came bottoms up, made his wealth, everything he has was from his efforts, and still fought for this country on his own 2 feet and never compromised. So that gives people, whoa, that means I don't have to be a Zionist cocksucker. Excuse the language, but that's right. But the narrative is you must be a cocksucker to Israel, or you must be like a Thomas Massey, sit on this news for years and then talk about it when it's convenient for you. I mean, look, I went to MIT, Massey went to MIT. I ran many anti-Zionist protests. I never saw Massey there. He's been in Congress for 16 years or elected official. He's now putting out tweets. Ooh, Republicans and Democrats are the same. Ooh, AIPAC. Well, why didn't you talk about this before?
Can I break in because
Yeah.
I want to add credibility to what you're saying. You've been coming on my show for quite some time. I've always found you a fascinating person. I really started to follow you when you were attacking Fauci because I hated Fauci and I thought it was ridiculous that people were following his lead, and I started paying attention to you. But what you were saying about how the system is derived, you've been saying this for quite some time, and it checked out to be true. I mean, almost everything that you're talking about, from elections to COVID, to how people will say things that will bring you into their fold when it's too late. Tucker Carlson's a perfect example. Tucker Carlson is prime time on Fox News. He had plenty of time to tell us what was going on in the world, the 2-party system. Then
And
he leaves
CNN.
Fox News and CNN. Then he has
And
this
CNN.
revelation, and he starts telling everybody, and I think he says a lot of things that are true, but now it's a revelation when he had 20 years in primetime television and CNN and Fox News to get with the program then, when people like you saw it and spoke out against it, he was covering it up. And then now that he's on his private platforms, now he's exposing it to a degree, not in totality. And I agree with you. You said, Rob, you said on one of the first shows I did with you, you said you'll notice who these people are. Even in your Shattering the Swarm video that you did, you said these people will tell you what you know to be true when it's too late. Look at what's going on with Dr. Fauci. You're fighting him in 2020, and you are fighting it tooth and nail. And now Rand Paul is telling us that Dr. Fauci is a liar. Now he's starting to come out as this charlatan when nobody was even talking about it back then. He was America's grandpa, and he was on every corporate television set every single day with his the most sexiest man in the world and all the bullshit. And I look at that and I say, Dr. Shiva's right again. He is the one that told us that after the fact is when they'll come out clean, when it doesn't matter anymore. And isn't that exactly what's going on in this country right now with some of these major players that left Fox News and now they have their own private platforms? When they had the opportunity to do something, they did nothing.
They're the key word to understand, the simple word that great revolutionaries have called these people are opportunists. Opportunists are very dangerous people because they mislead masses of people to thinking they're actually fighting the system when they are doing it when it's opportune to do them. Okay? It is easy to be a quote unquote revolutionary when it's now opportune to do it. You say? True revolutionaries, true agents of change, educate people and fight when it's necessary to do something where you can do change. Simple example. You're walking down the street and you see a crime taking place. Okay? And you're a journalist. Well, first of all, you jump in and help that person, and you would write about it to educate other people. There's crime in our neighborhood. A Fucker Carlson or Megyn Kelly or Thomas Massey, in various shades of this, and there's a spectrum of these people, they don't do anything then. 5 years later, they'll write a Pulitzer Prize winning book. Oh my God, crime in the United States is increasing. I witnessed this right in front of me. It was dramatic, da, 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 da. They'll get promoters who push out their book. They'll be on TV, talk shows. And the poor local journalist who exposed this and was fighting to actually help that individual, it did the noble deed. These people see news as a brand building opportunity for themselves. Let me repeat that again. These people use news and events as a brand building opportunity because brand is an asset that you can put on the balance sheet. Okay? It is a valuable asset. And if you look at Fucker Carlson's entire history, and the reason I call him Fucker Carlson, because that's what he is. He's a fucker. Okay? He's fucking people over. And you must use this very base level language to describe these people because you are breaking your own mind numbing respect for these people. So it's a technical term. Okay? But if you look at his history, he was on CNN because that was in vogue, right? Remember when, what's his name? Ted Turner started it, right? The all-day news channel, right? So it was in vogue to go on there to get your popularity. And Tucker Carlson has said that his goal in life was to be popular because he knew popularity would give you access. So that was CNN. And then Roger Ailes, if you remember, started the very interesting ways that he presented Fox News. Then he went over there. And then he sort of was a chameleon there. Then he leaves there. Okay. And then he goes over to, this very wealthy Iranian who funds JD Vance, just funded TCN. Okay. So this guy is a slime bag and he comes from a CIA family. He understands the power of media manipulation and he views masses of people and his brand as an opportunity to use news to build his brand, not to ever be an agent of change. Because in 2020, he knew about the backdoor portal to Twitter and he suppressed it intentionally. Same with Glenn Greenwald, because they build their Pulitzer Prize winning brands. You see, I've had opportunities to build all those brands, Rob, and I won their awards on their stage, but on my terms, you see? And this is because these people are such, frankly, star fuckers and ass kissers, that in their brain, you have to play the game. Because ultimately, they don't actually have any real talent. They don't really have any real talent. So they have to do this or that or this. And they know that they got to that position of fame through not their own talent. And this is a problem with Hollywood, too. 99% of the actors and actresses there did something on the casting couch. Very few actually have real artistic talent. Now, I'm a guy who actually developed my skills. So I stand on my own 2 feet. And most Americans do that. You see? And my story is a true story of Americana, which is bottoms up, uncompromising, winning on our terms. And that story must be censored by this existing Jared Kushner, Bernie Sanders, Elon Musk establishment, because they actually have no talent. They would
Do they have
never survive. They would
I
never
agree.
fucking survive, Rob. They
I
would
know.
never survive if they had to play the game fair.
Absolutely.
They would all fail, and they know that.
Yeah, I make that argument all the time, Dr. Shiva. I say, you know, just if you look at the commentators that are out there, I'm somebody probably like you. You can evaluate talent, you know, whether somebody has talent or not. And I look at these guys like Benny Johnson. They, you know, they put out a tweet and it gets 1 million people to see it. And I said, Benny Johnson has zero talent, none, zero talent. There's no reason for him to have these platforms, except he is reading Republican talking points and they want to spread that information. He has the money behind him to push these narratives, and that's how he gets the platforms. Guys like you and I, we're trying to get out there and really have debate and conversation with people, draw people to the truth, make them think a little bit more for themselves instead of the left-right paradigm. We get squashed. I mean, Isaiah's in social media. My producer's in social media. That's what he's a marketing director. He knows what's going on. And we talked about it this morning. I said, you know, we'll have Dr. Shiva on and we'll be suppressed. And here we are, where, you know, you can see it. It's incredible. I have to ask you this, though. What do you think these governments are actually trying to do? You know, I look at it and I see it as my gut feeling is it's sinister. I'm with you. I don't think the world's coming to an end. I don't think these people want the world to come to an end. So I'm not sitting in my closet sucking my thumb. But I do see a system of control that they're trying to put forth, something where they can continue their control without so much hassle and so much aggravation. And once you get control of America, I mean, really get control of America, where if they say they have a pandemic, you can't leave your subdivision, when they have that kind of control and convince people that that's the best way of life, that's when I think freedom and liberty just go right down the toilet. Do you think that they're trying to put that system forth? I sense a control system. And I'll just tell you why. Patriot Act, warrantless 702 FISA warrants, flock cameras are all over this country. There's millions and millions of these flock cameras coming up. And with COVID, you saw what they were doing with the COVID vaccines, the COVID passports and the like. It appears to me that they're building a surveillance and control system as we pay for it. Do you see that, or am I losing my mind? I'm very curious where you.
Well, Rob, I think that there's a bigger meta picture even beyond that. So if you go to the economics, follow the money. If you follow the money, what is the goal here? What is Jared Kushner's goal? Okay. And if you take immigration as an issue, and any one of these issues, if you really analyze it from a systems perspective, which is what I teach people at Truth, Freedom, Health, right? We teach people that if you do not have a systems approach to look at the world, and there's a curriculum we've created. I used to teach it at MIT. You will always be confused. So, you know, to the extent that people really want to learn this, we call it becoming a warrior scholar, they should get with the program and go to truthfreedomhealth.com and get involved, because otherwise you will always not see the next manipulation that's coming. But once you understand how systems work, you'll understand what they're doing. So in any system in the universe, there are 9 components of every system. 9 components. I'm not going to go through the entire teaching as a professor right now, okay? But every system has a goal that is trying to achieve. An intelligent system, dumb systems don't have a goal. They want to make the mass of people dumb systems, just give them an input and do an output. Intelligent systems have a goal that learn how to manipulate the input into the system to achieve their goal. Okay? So that's what an intelligent system is. So we need to understand that the goal of this swarm, as I call it, the establishment, is to maximize 3 things: power, profit, control. That's their goal. Okay? No different than the goal of your thermostat. If you set it to 68 degrees, it's to achieve 68 degree temperature, right? Your thermostat, if your temperature goes off a little bit, right? Let's say it goes to, you know, it's the summertime, it goes to 80 degrees. It'll call on your AC system to pump more, you know, send more freon in to, right, cool the system, right? And when it hits 68, it says it's okay. That's a control system. And there's the cybernetic concepts of control system theory came out in the 1920s, and they are embedded through civilization everywhere. That same approach has been taken in manipulating people. Without understanding control system theory, these 9 principles, it's like they have a nuclear weapon and we're walking around with a slingshot. We're never going to be able to defeat them. So you have to understand the theory and the community and the action. That's what we've done at Truth, Freedom, Health. So the first piece is, without that understanding, people won't see a Bernie Sanders coming. They won't see a Donald Trump coming. So this system, its goal is to maximize power, profit, control. Another goal it has to achieve that goal is to make sure people never bottoms up build movements. Let me repeat that again. Their goal from a large control systems perspective is to maximize power profit control for a few. And in order to do that, they have to make sure the mass of people never really understand how the system works. So people don't go out and hand out a fucking flyer. Okay? They don't want this happening, because this means you've come to the conclusion, wow, I have to create my own battleground. I'm going to go to a grocery store where people are coming out, and I'm going to interact with people, not be relying on Mark Zuckerberg's platform or their platforms. That is a high state of consciousness. So the key thing is their goal is to maximize power profit control and to ensure people don't come up bottoms up. Okay? No different than the furnace is to do 68 degrees. So how do they do this? Okay, on any issue, let's take immigration. They're watching how people are thinking. Okay? And whenever people say, whoa, wait a minute, the illegal immigrant, or calling an illegal immigrant, he's getting paid a really low wage, and they're using the attack on illegal immigrants to further lower my wage and give me just a little bit higher, so I feel good that I'm getting paid $5 an hour and he's getting paid $2 an hour. I'm better. And they create the narrative of illegal immigrants versus working class people. Meanwhile, the billionaire class over the last 50 years has only deported 3% of illegal aliens, which means left and right are profiting from illegal immigration. And those are the numbers, by the way, 3.7%. Okay.
Exactly.
I just wrote a book called Deportation Theater, showing whether it was Obama or Trump or Bush or whoever, the billionaires pay these guys to always keep immigration as an issue, to basically manipulate the poor white working class. It's actually white on white crime. White wealthy billionaires are getting the white working class attacking the quote unquote illegal immigrants so they can suppress everyone's wages. And this goes back to 1646 with Bacon's Rebellion, when black slaves and the white settlers got together against their British oppressors. And they said, holy shit, we can never have this. So we're going to create racism. We're going to use racism as a weapon. So then when the poor Irish came, they attacked them because they wanted to keep the Irish wages low, but it lowered everyone else's wages. So when you go back to the fundamentals, it's maximizing power profit control. So you have people fighting against each other all day long. So the Democrats and Republicans have gotten this down to a science, which is, okay, the Democrats are going to get climate change as an issue and racism. The Republicans get election integrity and immigration, right? And then they'll send emails all day saying, oh my God, the Democrats want to steal elections. The Democrats, voter right, whatever the issue is, right? And the Democrats will send stuff to, oh my God, the Republicans want to hang every black person, right? They want to kill every brown person, whatever, right? And through that dialectic, they raise money. But what they're really doing is making sure that people don't build a bottoms-up movement and keep thinking one wing is going to help them. So that is a control system that they're doing. To the extent we do cameras, yeah, that's a part of that control system. But that's only a very small piece of it when you think about the larger goal is to make sure people don't build a bottoms-up movement. And this is why I'm
I was going to say, that's pretty... Go ahead. I don't want to interrupt you. Go ahead. I apologize. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm saying, so the censoring of someone like me, by all accord, I could have easily gotten a position in Trump's administration. Easy. Okay. Trump asked me many times when I went with that 2-hour meeting, what do you want? I didn't want anything. Okay. But by all accord, a guy with my credentials, with my, history, my resume should be among them. Okay. But because I chose not to be among them, Rob, because I chose to use all this knowledge that I was able to acquire and to use it for educating the masses to uplift themselves, that must be censored. I would censor me. Okay. Right? You cannot have one of their own go against them. This is why Charlie Kirk was executed. Okay. Because he was realizing the reality of Zionism. He was in their club. He needed to be executed. That's what actually happened. Okay.
Of course. I agree 100%.
Malcolm X was executed because he was part of the Black Nationalist Club. And there was no way that they were going to allow, as long as he was speaking blacks and white devils, he was very useful. But when Malcolm went to Mecca and he realized, wait a minute, even Islam is a religion of all people and it's about brotherhood, and it was the economic issues, he had to be executed. But the problem is those people didn't build, even though they were great people, bottoms up movement educating others, so it didn't rely on them. And that's what we've done with Truth, Freedom, Health. It's not relying on me. To the extent I'm a symbol of the movement, Dr. Shiva, we've educated a Nicholas Lupo. We've educated, a Crystal Ellis. We've educated a Mike Mosca, right? We've educated we have people all over the world who are calling in, Rob, for our U.S. Senate campaign. So we've established an institute where we train people, like you would go to MIT and learn revolutionary physics. We've created a community, and we get people out to experience. When people go hand out a flyer, we had a guy, Chris, he said, "Oh my God, Dr. Shiva, you called me to go hand out a flyer. The night before I couldn't sleep. I was wondering, oh my God, what am I going to do handing out a flyer?" And right, it's a new phenomenon, right? And he goes, "I wasn't going to come." And after he came, he had conversations with a Jewish woman who said, "Yeah, I don't know what Zionism is." And she was sincere. She wanted to learn. He had conversations with a person who, remembered us from COVID. So he started realizing, holy shit, by doing this, right, I've had an experience that I could never get on social media. And I've gotten numbers of local people, you say? So that experience is what they don't want. And that is why I am censored, because I am telling people to get up on their own 2 feet. I'm not telling people that vote for me and I'm going to solve this problem in the US Senate, right? I'm going back to fundamentals, saying I'm here to educate people. I will use that Senate platform. I will be the lone fucking senator. And that's okay, because at least there'll be one lone senator who's representing the independents, who are the majority. These guys aren't representing the 48% for the plurality. They're representing the 5% or the 30% in their states. So that's the opportunity, Rob. So it's very exciting. So I'm saying our campaign for US Senate gives every American, every person in the world, an opportunity to experience what a bottoms-up movement tastes like, feels like. You see? So we have a woman in Finland. In fact, 3 days ago, I got a call saying, "Hi, I'm calling." A woman with a thick Australian accent. "Hi, I'm calling to see if you will vote for Dr. Shiva." I go, "I am Dr. Shiva." She goes, "Oh my God." And she goes, "You were in the phone list." And I go, "Where are you from?" She goes, "Oh, I'm in Australia. I want to thank you everything you did during COVID." She goes, "I'm a hairdresser. I have 3 kids, And so here's a woman in Australia, Rob, making a call to US citizens because she recognizes that having one senator among 90, the other 100 who will speak about these large issues will impact her life, because she remembers what I did during COVID, right? That we helped organize people there. You see? So we're leveraging that. So that's why this is really exciting. To me, it's a long game. So our movement, Truth, Freedom, Health, the Running for US, is telling every one of your viewers, hey, look, get off your butts. There's nothing to get anxious about. We didn't get here overnight, but I have created the tools. As I created email, Cytosolve, I have created an innovation, which is Truth, Freedom, Health. No different than email, which gives people theory, community, and action. Email gives people the inbox, the outbox folders, right? But Truth, Freedom, Health gives you a new technology so you can stop complaining and start leading, right? Notice on social media, they call you followers. My goal is we want to create leaders. But in order to lead, you have to understand the dynamics of how systems work, the same level as you would learn as a Harvard physicist or a Harvard systems biologist. And we've made the curriculum that easy, Rob. As long as people are dedicated, they can learn. But the theory is not only important. You have to get on the ground, offline. And that's where you experience reality. We had a young electrician, Nicholas Lupo, never, completely apolitical. He saw my videos, started getting all the books, learning, and then he got involved in our campaign and started collecting signatures for us. He's in front of a Walmart collecting signatures, which he has every right to do. Police come and say, you can't collect signatures. He says, no, I have the Supreme Court ruling. The Pruneyard ruling says I'm allowed to be here. They throw him in the back of the car, strip search him. 22-year-old kid. We write to Rand Paul and Thomas Massie. This is in their district. They do nothing. Cavity search him. It's disgusting. Steal his money, the police in Kentucky. Anyway, we filed a lawsuit. We eventually won, but I'm not saying this should occur to everyone, but had Nicholas not gone through this journey of being offline activity, and he's become one of the leaders in our movement now. But he went through the theory. He's got a community now, and he understands what it means to fight the establishment, how they cheat, lie, and steal. You see? Without that experience, we would not have a powerful leader like Nick now, And he works full time as an electrician. Okay? So that is what we're creating. And every Nicholas that we create is another Malcolm X that we're creating. You see? It's not dependent on me.
Yeah, I say the same thing. I mean, we have the same opinion, and this is outside of your explaining it. I had the same revelation when I was, I used to say when I was on the radio station, I have no intent on complaining about these things for 10 years. My intent is to solve some of these problems. That's why we started the 501c4, and we do the same thing. We're trying to organize people so that they're not fearful of this government, because the government ultimately, if we do it right, they work for us. So you have to have a situation where they're afraid of citizens, where they recognize citizens are paying attention. There has to be pressure on that establishment in order to get anything done. Because other than that, at least in the state of Missouri and the state of Florida, the big donors just make all the decisions, and then the puppets in the government have to come out and sell it to us. Which leads me to this question. If you were to be successful, first of all, you'd have to get through the election system in Massachusetts, which I don't think will be very easy, but I think you understand how that game is played, so you might have an upper hand on some other people. What would happen if you win? Would you be fearful? I think that all the truth sayers that really are successful and really, like Charlie Kirk, I think Charlie Kirk I think he was successful in beginning to take people from the Zionist angle to the, wait a minute, maybe something's wrong here. Maybe I've been looking at it wrong. And as he was making that transformation, that's when I think his life became endangered. You sense that could happen to you?
Well, I think it's depending on what you see the purpose of life is, Rob. Right?
Agreed. I agree.
So for me, the journey from an Indian caste system where I was denied everything, right? My parents won in a trillion coming here. You've already won a lot, okay? You've gotten quite a bit of. So, when I went back to India, people may know this, there's a site called Innovation Demands Freedom. After I finished my PhD, I won a Fulbright, which is a pretty prestigious scholarship, to do research. And I went back to India to study traditional systems of medicine. And when I finished my research, I was on my way back to the United States because I'm a US citizen. I grew up here. The Prime Minister of India, through the Director General of the largest innovation center, saying, "Hey, Dr. Shiva, why are you leaving for India? Why don't you stay here 2 years and help India innovate?" So I was appointed by the Prime Minister of India to one of the most powerful positions in India. Okay, given you were treated like royalty there, right? You get a huge bungalow, you get everything, and within 3 months, I put together a whole plan to unleash Indian innovation. There's a lot of smart people in India. The reason these smart people come to the United States, people may not know, is because India still runs like a feudal system of old British rule. And I saw this really smart people who they always hit a ceiling. Give you an example, a guy called Gobind Khurana in India. He couldn't even get a job as a lecturer, a biologist. Well, he emigrates to the United States and he ends up winning the Nobel Prize for medicine. Now, he couldn't have done that in India. I couldn't have invented email in India. It's only in the United States that stuff like that could be done. So when I was there, I realized that they had just brought me in to be the MIT guy. While all the corruption went back, they could just tell the public, "Oh, we brought this MIT guy to fix Indian innovation." And they didn't really want me doing anything, Rob. So anyway, instead of just sitting there, my father-in-law at the time said, "Why don't you keep your mouth shut? You will one day become Minister of Science and Technology. You'll have even bigger homes." I can do that, Rob. So I wrote a expose, which again, 99.999% of people in that role would never have done. I was appointed as an additional secretary in the Indian government. It's basically like a cabinet level person. Okay. So I wrote this report saying, look, I've looked at the Indian infrastructure. There's these amazing people, and there's a feudal infrastructure that was imposed by the British that never changed. We went from white men with crowns with brown men with white hats, and you're still oppressing your own people. That report got circulated. My email was shut down within 3 hours. I was evicted from my house under death threats. I had to leave India. And I left India on a third-class train to the border of the Himalayas, walked across, and then got a train home, okay? A plane home. So the issue is, what is it you view life? So for me, it's about recognizing that life is very, very precious, and we're here for like a moment. And what we will be remembered for is what we did to advance life. You see, so the more you get access to knowledge, you actually have a greater responsibility. So my theory on this is that, and you have to be smart, right? So the goal is to disseminate my understanding, what I've learned, to as many people as possible. And that's what the movement for truth, freedom, health is. That infrastructure has enabled me to do. So we've had to create an organization. We've had to create technology, right? So it's independent of me, right? To the extent that the brand Dr. Shiva exists, that's cool, right? It's not a Donald Trump brand that was funded from top down. It was my brand that I created with my own sweat and blood, right? So that's why they don't like that. You see, they don't want to promote the Dr. Shiva brand because it's a symbol of a bottoms up people. They will promote Trump brand or Elon brand because they're all owned by, they're owned, okay? So Walter Isaacson will write a biography of Steve Jobs or Elon Musk, but he will not do a biography of me as the inventor of email because I'm not part of them. I wasn't anointed, you see? So this is the opportunity we have to recognize we need to build things bottoms up and to recognize that to the extent each one of us is important, the more we do it bottoms up, we replicate our understanding to people. So if someone is eliminated, it doesn't really do much, right? So the issue is, and any individual in that point doesn't become such a threat because you've dispersed the threat to lots and lots of people. That's
exactly
why
how I see it. Exactly how I see it. I make that argument all the time. I said there has to be in Missouri, as I'm talking about primarily because Isaiah, myself, the people that we're involved with, we put a lot of heat and a lot of pressure on the politicians that say one thing and do another, and we aggravate them to no end, both on social media, in person, everywhere. And I said, we shouldn't be fearful so long as there's a ton of us. That way, if they take out a Robb Carter, they know that they're not really doing any good because there's really no central leader necessarily. Everybody's a leader. Everybody's saying the same thing. Everybody's coming from that angle of you work for us. We don't work for you. We want to drive the agenda. We don't want you driving the agenda down our throat. So we're on the exact same page. That's the way I explained it, is exactly how you just explained it. I got a couple more. Any celebrity help that you can get, anybody that has big platforms that would come out and say, I agree with Dr. Shiva. I'm going to lend my support behind him. I'm going to speak out on behalf of Dr. Shiva. Do you get anybody from the establishment media? Maybe it's a sports star or a television star or a Hollywood star. Anybody that has a big platform that has come out and said, I want to support what Dr. Shiva is doing?
Well, I think in private, people have told me this, okay? The problem is many of these people, particularly in the world of Hollywood, a very close friend of mine who's a pretty famous actor, his wife said, 5 families run Hollywood, 5 Zionist families run Hollywood, all right? So these people's livelihood is based on that. So they're not going to do that. Now, here's a guy that's interesting, Mel Gibson. Mm-hmm. He says some stuff against Zionism, but then he hangs around with General Flynn, who's a pro-Zionist, you say? So, a guy like that is interesting because he could do something. He said some interesting remarks, right? But I haven't had a chance to talk to him, But there are people who could say something who perhaps have broken through certain realms, but a majority of them, they may be sympathetic, but because of the Zionist control of Hollywood, they're not going to do anything. If you look at academia, there's a lot of professors at places like MIT who in closed doors will tell you, yeah, everything she was saying is correct, But they too won't do it because I'll give you an example. A guy like Noam Chomsky, may know him. He recently was, Chomsky was known as a great intellectual, left intellectual. When I was young, I was brought over to Chomsky to be his protege. Okay, studied with him. This was before the Epstein stuff came out recently. But anyway, when the email controversy was going down, fake controversy, after my stuff went to the Smithsonian, people started attacking me, saying, you didn't invent email, you're a liar, a fraud, a dick, all this crap. You can find it at Gawker Media. Eventually, we took them to court. I won a lawsuit. At that time, Chomsky came out and he looked at the data, and he's now an institute professor at MIT, only 4. Okay? And he came out and he said, wow, he goes, this 14-year-old boy did invent email. I mean, he told the truth. Because he knew that I was a truth sayer, and if he didn't tell the truth, he would lose his credibility. Okay? But after he did that, and he came out supporting me, he called me at midnight after that. He goes, Shiva, MIT's calling me saying that this was wrong what I did, and my home institution is attacking me. I go, no, when did MIT become your home institution? You're claiming you're a radical, right? Fighting against them. So my point is, even he, the great radical theorist against the establishment who wrote Manufacturing Consent, okay, was afraid of the establishment. Now, he's gotten everything. He's gotten fame. He's got fortune. He's made money. He's gotten his, there's only, you have associate professor, assistant professor, professor. MIT only has 4 institute professors. He's got the highest acclaim, tenured. And he is afraid, Rob, right? Even after he did come supporting me, you see? So this is a level of golden handcuffs they have on people. But most of this is mental, you see? Because throughout their success trajectory, they have gotten involved in the clique, you see? I mean, when I was out in Hollywood, I was married to a actress, right? You notice that you're in the clique. And when I mean most of this is subtle, you get invited to the VIP section in certain restaurants, okay? That's a perk you get. So there's a whole bunch of perks they have. And people are afraid to leave those perks. It's not direct, it's much more subtle. Does that make sense?
Of course. Absolutely.
So, when I was in the Indian government, I mean, the amount of perks I got. You get 4 cars, you get a bungalow, you get people saluting you, right? You could easily fall into that. For some reason, Rob, something within me, probably my great-grandfather, who was brought up as an indentured servant, one of the earliest stories he told me was how he felt so betrayed by his own brother who made him an indentured servant, okay? That he said, F off, and he disowned his own brother. So I was brought up with the story of people who were driven by principles, no matter how much it hurt them. And that's deeply in me. So, but most people, unfortunately, didn't have those experiences, you see?
Mm-hmm.
Their experience was compromising. Oh, we have to play the game, but you don't have to.
I know, and they think they're smart. I have people that tell me I'm crazy. I left the shoe business, making a good living. Not, I'm not a millionaire by any stretch, but I was making a really, really nice living. So people in that world, not a lot, but there were people that reached out to me and told me that I was insane for leaving. I was an established person within that industry. There's a lot of money within that industry. Almost everybody wears shoes, right? So we have a pretty stable industry. And I left it because I just didn't want to be a part of the corporate environment anymore. It just was not satisfying to my soul. I was talking to my wife about it, and she said, honey, if you're not happy and you want to pursue something in media, why don't we take some of our savings, give you some runway, and go accomplish it? And that's where we're at, right in the middle of it. But I'm like you. I do things because I want to feel good about what I'm trying to accomplish. I want my kids and grandkids to have better lives. And it's not all about money, which is the way I was when I was young. I must admit it. When I was young, it was about money. And as I got older, I realized that was crazy. Last question for you. I got one more, and then I've got some people waiting in the wings that I promised I would try to be on time with them today. Zionism. I did not recognize the power of the Zionist ideology over our governing systems until you brought it to my attention. You did some very explicit language, and you said it over and over. And then when I first heard it, I just chuckled. I thought it's kind of funny. He's obviously doing this to make a point. And so I started paying attention to it. And now my show is a lot about exposing this Zionist ideology that is all around Donald Trump. I mean, every single person from his chief of staff to Jared Kushner, to Mike Huckabee, to Rubio, to all of them. I mean, everybody that's close to him is a Zionist. So at that point, you go, okay, well, if everybody that is surrounding Donald Trump is a Zionist, what do Zionists want to achieve? Can you answer that for me? What is the Zionist ideology want to achieve?
Let's just, again, take a meta generalization what Zionism is. Zionism is a political ideology, which is part of a larger political ideology, Rob. And there's been various of these ideologies. It's not only Zionism. That says a few people should control the many. That's where it comes from. Nazism had this view, right? That a few should control the many. Brahmanism, Indian Brahmanism had this view, right? That a small set of people are the upper caste, and they concoct some stuff about karma and blah, blah. They always bring in some religious stuff, and they create this view that the few should control the many. Zionism is no different. It's a invented political ideology by Theodore Herzl, which says this small set of people are the chosen people, and therefore they should rule over many. So I just want tomorrow there may be something called, I don't know, Blionism or
Mhm.
something else. So
Right.
that's why I said Zionism is racism in the service of imperialism. Okay? Brahmanism is racism in the service of imperialism. Nazism is racism. So you have to understand the general system approach here. Otherwise, tomorrow there could be something else that comes and people will think, oh, that's good. So, but we need to understand that the establishment creates its ideologies, its philosophies, just like working people create our music and our philosophies, right? Because philosophies drive the ability to affect people's minds. So the philosophy they created was the few should control the many. And a version of that is Zionism. I hope that's clear. So Zionism is a form of racism in order to justify imperialism, which is a raping of all people. So British and US imperialism wanted to create in the Middle East a lot of chaos so they could control people. That's why they supported Zionism. If it was Nazism, they would have supported them. By the way, the Nazis and the Zionists colluded very closely together.
Yep.
Zionists and the Nazis colluded to butcher Jews, okay? In the Warsaw Ghetto, for example. I shared a lot of this education, right? The Hindu Brahmins support Zionism. So you see, the people who believe in this core political ideology support the fact that the few should control the many. That's where a lot of this comes from. So I want people to get it clear. And when I said Zionist cocksucker, it wasn't even something I was thinking, Rob. It just came out naturally, right? And then if you notice, everyone else started picking up on it. South Park did a thing afterwards on it.
That's right.
Right? So so many of the things I say are coming from a lot of research and a natural articulation. It's not something I think about. But the thing is, Palantir and this stuff are watching my content and they know it takes off. So then they bring in all the grifters who start mimicking my content and then suppressing the source. So this is a process that they do. My reason for doing that was not to get views and clicks, but to educate people. Their reason for mimicking me, and Trump started cursing, right? Tucker Carlson started cursing. People say, why are you cursing? Everyone started cursing because they know the data that I was reflecting the natural systemic anger of the American people. It wasn't even because I'm part of those people. I see the oppression that's been done to me. Tucker Carlson has never been oppressed. These people have never actually experienced oppression, right? But to them, to mimic those words are a way for them to profit by getting more views and clicks. Okay?
Gotcha. Yep.
But
they want power, profit, and control. That's really what they want. I mean, you hit it right
they
on
want
the
to
head.
make sure we don't unite and remove these glasses. Someone's, I just saw someone said, what do I believe about Christ? Okay. So look, I've studied different spiritual leaders. For me, Christ was fighting the same forces. He was fighting for truth, freedom, health in his time, right? But he had clearly realized that the obvious establishment that I talk about, right, was not really the enemy. It was a not so obvious establishment. The Pharisees and the Sadducees, who claimed they were speaking the word of God, were the actual enemies. And it was when he started exposing them, 7 days later is when they colluded against him and crucified him. If you actually go look at the history, we can have a longer conversation on that. But Christ was really about exposing truth at the bare minimum of not the obvious establishment, but the people who were the not so obvious establishment. And that's why Christ was crucified, because he didn't just attack the Romans. That was easy, right? Tucker Carlson attacking Zionism now. That's easy. But he is part of the establishment, right? Bernie Sanders is like the Pharisees and the Sadducees, right? And these people, I want everyone to remind, are very clever. They know our movement for truth, freedom, health is independent. So they're going to create a fake independent movement. That's what Marjorie Taylor Greene, Tucker Carlson, and Thomas Massey are into now. They see the money. They see the opportunity. They have all the data. So, and you see Andrew Yang doing the same thing, the Forward Party. So they know an independent movement is here, which is us and what we've done. So
they'll try to hijack it. Yeah, they'll try to hijack it.
Or distract people. This is why it's so important that people learn theory, okay? Meaning they understand history. This is why the curriculum we've set up is important, because otherwise people say, oh, well, Tucker said some really good stuff. Dr. Shiva, why are you attacking him? Right? And it'll take us another 2 years to explain that by them. They've caused. So it's really important people understand the physics of how they manipulate people. Because then once you learn the physics, you can apply it to everything. But if you don't learn the physics, everything's going to be one-off. Oh, what about Tulsi Gabbard? She said some nice things. Her husband, oh my God, he had cancer. Isn't that sad? Everything becomes a distraction. They don't understand the nature of the whole system and how these people are brought in to sustain the system, Rob.
Do you pay attention to, or did you pay attention to Bernays and the idea that through media images, through repetition, through certain techniques, that the few can control the many? I call it narrative building, right? Because spy balloons and aliens, and they come up with all these things. Talk about it.
Yes. So Edward Bernays really was a guy, as TV was coming, he realized the power of the 30-second ad, okay? And how you could manipulate people. And broadcast advertising was that. The broadcast advertising then moved into narrowcasting, which was what social media was. We were supposed to have a freer world, but they brought all of Bernays' stuff to do micro Bernays, manipulation at the one-on-one level. So they could figure out who you are and they could give you a message to manipulate you one-on-one in mass. So it's narrow-casted manipulation that's taking place right now. That's the Edward Bernays model. Now, the other approach to the Edward Bernays model is long-form storytelling, long-form education. Because Edward Bernays' model was to dumb people down.
Right.
To say, oh, people don't want to listen to long. You need to give them quick. People say, oh, Dr. Shiva, why don't you just do a quick soundbite? Well, that's actually anti-human. And the elites know this. This is why they push Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan knows the power of long form. So our natural modality is to sit around a fire and listen to epic stories, to do long form. People actually want to listen to long form. That's the natural mode of how humans are. It builds community, it builds understanding. So they're creating an unnatural communication model, which is a short blips. It's almost like giving people sugar, to increase their insulin versus giving people a whole meal. People need nutrition, which is what long form is. And that's what people naturally want. So if it's good content, people will listen to it. And if you look at the videos that I used to do, Rob, educating people, 90% would people listen to a 2-hour video because it was educational. They couldn't get this content anywhere, but they want you to, and that's what all these youth social media influencers are being trained to do stupid videos, walking around saying some stuff. Right.
No.
And,
Yes.
but that's anti-human. Humans actually want to listen to long form.
I agree.
So the narrow casting model is a very powerful marketing model to send a particular message. So you have 1,000 people. Before you used to just hit all 1,000 with a broadcast ad, right? Less filling, tastes great. Now you could hit 1,000 people with individual ads, let's say for light beer. This person's a woman. She gets a little bit different ad than the guy who's a man versus the guy who's a, 18 plus year old or a handicapped person or a veteran. You could send out one ad and you hit them with particular Edward Bernays type messaging, right? And AI is facilitating that kind of stuff.
Yep. It's exactly right. The last thing I want to, when you do, I'm assuming you're going to be on the stage in Massachusetts. I'm hoping you get on the stage. Will you invite Isaiah up there? We'd like to cover with you. If you can get us into that.
Definitely.
So I want to be there with you when that happens.
Yeah, we're going to have the rights to have people in the audience. So let us know, Rob, and I'll connect you with Mike Mosca. We're right now negotiating, how it's going to be set up, et cetera, But
I want to hear you debate people. I just think you're going to be a very difficult person to debate on stage, and I would love to see that happen. And I want to be a part of it. I would like to see it.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying we fulfilled all their criteria, and given the cheating these guys go through, until I'm physically on that stage, whenever that is, I'm not going to believe it, even though I'm a very optimistic person, But to everyone listening out here, even though share this video wherever you are, go through your own channels, but let people know that our campaign for U.S. Senate, ShivaForSenate.com, or our movement, TruthFreedomHealth.com, is giving Americans an opportunity that they've been denied for far too long by the swarm. You go to ShatterTheSwarm.com. And it is through people like Robb and people who actually care that we're going to educate people. And the goal is to educate. Because once someone learns something, it's hard to unlearn it.
Yes.
And we will win the long game. I'm very confident about that.
Me
but
too.
To win that long game in a shorter period of time, you need to understand the physics, right? Otherwise, if you want to fix something in your house, you may try this and that and a hammer and a screwdriver. But if you learn the physics, you say, oh, I got to use this tool to do this. And that's what we're teaching at Truth from Health. We're up to educate people on this fundamental physics, which is what the elites keep unto themselves, the Peter Thiels and
Secret knowledge.
Yeah, it's knowledge that they keep unto themselves. So I could have done that every year at MIT as a professor for 55 people. But to get it across to 8 billion people, we accelerate change. That's the goal.
Amen. All right, Dr. Shiva, got two people waiting in the wing. One of the guys waiting in the wings wrote this book.
Uh-huh.
Right? Because he says the same thing. We all come from the same page. So the people that come on my show talk about what you can do. I taught my kids when they were young. I said, so long as you have awareness, situational awareness, you don't have to be afraid. As long as you understand what's going on and you can protect yourself, you don't have to be afraid. That's why I always talk about guns. If you take guns out of society, now I'm dependent on somebody to come save the day. If somebody bigger, stronger, faster wants to come after my family, I'm dependent on somebody, some entity to come save the day. But with guns, I have the ability to protect myself. I want to make sure that people are armed with knowledge so they can recognize that their government is not on their team anymore. They are fighting against us. They're trying to divide us. They want this anxiety. They want this financial trap that they're setting for people. And all we have to do is be aware of it, fight back, and take back the reins of power. And then all of a sudden, we don't have to stress out anymore. Because right now, there's a lot of anxiety in the country, as you're well aware. Dr. Shiva, thank you so much for coming on. We'll be back in touch with you soon. I'll send you an email because I expect you to be on that stage in Massachusetts. And if you are, I want to be there.
That'd be great. And Rob, send us a link and we'll restream this out.
You got it. We'll take care of it.
Okay. Thank you. Be well.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Thank you much.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks to everyone. Be well.
All right, Isaiah. I do enjoy talking to him. I got to tell you, he comes from the same angle. A lot of people, like anything else, they don't really trust anybody at any time. And I understand where people are coming from with that opinion.
Especially everything he's been through.
Well, he just says the things that are true. I mean, I get to these opinions on my own.
Yeah.
I didn't need Dr. Shiva to tell me, wait a minute, I'm looking out. And I used to say on the radio all the time, my personality doesn't work in a situation. I cannot be satisfied. I cannot be happy to complain forever unless I'm going to be a part of the solution. That's why, we're going to have Amy Castro and Mike Compton on here in just a minute. And I apologize, you guys. I know you're waiting in the wings here for being late. I just, I sometimes do that. I'm not very good at closing things down, so I apologize. But people like Act for Missouri, Shield Maidens, we are the ones that get out and we try to organize the community to be involved. You don't have to be afraid of the big boogeyman, which is government, so long as you want to get involved in solving the problems. If you're going to allow them to do whatever they want, then you have no hope. They're not taking you in the proper direction. Isn't that obvious to people by now? It's not. It's obvious to me. And in order to keep our republic, we have to be involved in our government, understand how it works, understand how to make changes to it, and pressure it back into compliance with the people, so the people are not always in compliance with tyranny. Fair enough? I hope people are starting to understand that more and more as we do the show. Let's do Valvoline Express.
I was going to say the thing that's giving me hope is with our explosion on Facebook there, where we got now it's 11,000 followers in the last 2 days. The comments on the posts, Rob, are people who are saying, you're hitting the nail on the head. This is exactly how I'm thinking. Wow, I can't believe someone's saying this now. And so it sounds to me like the people are hungry for this information, and these are things that they've thought, but the algorithms maybe haven't served them this information before. Now that they're seeing it, they're getting more hungry and hungry for that information. That's what I'm seeing from the comments as we have this explosion. That's kind of the narrative that people are telling in the comments.
Well, our general audience aren't a bunch of dimwits, right? You wouldn't listen to us every day because it doesn't matter whether you come from the left or the right or the middle. That's not important to me. I believe that very wise, intelligent, good-hearted people come from different perspectives based on their life experience. So I don't hate everybody who disagrees with me. I'll argue with them. I'll have the debate with them. I mean, you even get heated at times because you get frustrated in debates and arguments. But I can hug people that disagree with me and love them and want to spend time with them and have conversations with them, because I think if everybody thought exactly the same, I think it'd be a very boring world. But that's my take on it, Isaiah. All right. Valvoline Express Care. This is our good friend, Tony Clark. It's getting close to weekend time. And when it's weekend time, you have got to go out and get yourself an oil change by Valvoline Express Care and my good friend, Tony Clark. Again, locations. Let's start with locations, Isaiah, because it's up on the screen so people can check out the locations. We have Cape Girardeau, Missouri, Highland, Illinois, Troy, Illinois, Lemay Ferry Road, Warrenton, Missouri, Mid Rivers Mall Drive, and St. Peter's Parkway. And I think he's building a couple more. In fact, I know, Isaiah, you're going to get in touch with him to bring one out to St. Clair. These are good people. I mean, these are really good, decent people. And I say, you know what? If they start small businesses and you want to be a participant, you're going to get an oil change at some point. Think Valvoline Express Care. You can go to Valvoline-Express Care, get yourself a coupon. 15 minutes from bay to on your way. No sales pressure, no nonsense, all Valvoline branded products. And again, a happy environment when you go to get your oil change. They're not going to drive you crazy. You're not going to feel uncomfortable when you go in. They do things the right way. Valvoline Express Care, our good friend Tony Clark. Again, when it's time for an oil change and you don't have that sticker in your window afterwards, Isaiah, how in the world can we possibly be friends?
Yeah.
Then I want to get Advanced Wellness in here, MED. I'm gonna talk about Advanced Wellness, MED. Can you put up the promotion that I sent you, Isaiah? Because I want to make sure that Dr. Helen has a full house. I think she's probably going to have more than a full house, but I just want to make sure that it happens that way for her. She's putting on an event with Bishop Strickland, who we just interviewed recently. I really enjoyed the conversation with the guy. I know John Grady sees it a little bit different. Catholics have different views of what's going on. I'm not a Catholic, so I'm looking at it from a pragmatic point of view. And I like the idea if you have a principled stance on something that you take the slings and arrows when you have a principled stance. But again, I don't understand Catholicism top to bottom like John Grady does. Mr. Bishop Strickland, or we call him Bishop, is it Mr. Bishop Strickland? I don't know how that goes. But Credo Dinner Forum with question and answer. So you have an opportunity to ask him questions. My friend John Cletus is a devout Catholic. I don't want him there because he'll embarrass me. But other than that, he's going to be paying attention to what's going on. So this is on September the 12th, Clayton Plaza Hotel, put on by Credo, Credo. And then what's the email? Is the email on that flyer, Isaiah?
No
Yeah,
email.
there it is. It is. It's credostlouis.org.
That's a website.
Credo St. Louis.org. Website, I'm sorry. credostlouis.org. Or you can reach out to him at 314-322-0337. I'll be all over social media over the next couple days, reminding people to sign up and get out and be involved in the dinner with Bishop Strickland, Clayton Plaza Hotel, September the 12th. I'll be the MC, so I'll look forward to seeing a lot of people there. Again, that's September 12th. Put on by.
Looks like you only have 4 days to RSVP after the 31st.
You only got 4 days. That's why I said I'll be really pushing hard on social media. AdvancedWellnessMed.com. Dr. Helen Gelhout, we all know the story. 314-576-0094. She specializes in all the things that could potentially kill you, and she knows what she's doing when it comes to cancer, strokes, Alzheimer's, dementia. The earliest cancer detection blood test available, number one. Number two, symptom reversal for Alzheimer's and dementia. I don't want to get into it like I do every day, but if you have a family member and they're starting to slip cognitively, you got to get a hold of Dr. Helen Gelhout. 314-576-0094, AdvancedWellnessMed.com. All right, let's bring in Amy and Mike. And I'm sorry, you guys, I feel terrible every time I do this. I do not mean to not respect your time, so I apologize very much for being late. I'm awful at some things. It's just my nature. I get involved in conversations.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah. I was enjoying listening to Dr. Shiva, so you have nothing to apologize about today. That was a great discussion.
I enjoy talking, and we're gonna have to figure out how to get Amy on, Isaiah. Maybe she comes out and back in. Maybe I've been sitting there too long. What did you think, Mike? I even got your book in here. Did you see that?
Yeah,
that was my payback for being late. I threw your book into the conversation. And you're always good to me when something's going on with Isaiah. You say, Rob, I'll help you. If you need to get the system running. I know you're not very smart, so I'll take care of it for you. And you come on and you get the things running. So I appreciate
that's what he texts me. That's what he texts me too, Rob. When he's helping.
Everybody's saying the same thing. It's quite obvious to everyone now. Can we get Amy in, or is she going to be?
I just text her. It looks like I can see her hooking up some headphones and stuff. So whenever she's ready, I'll
traveling. So
she's on a little vacation with her husband, having a good time, and she still is going to come in and get involved in the conversation. There's a couple things I want to talk about. If Amy can hear us, I know Mike can hear us. I want to talk about this clip that I have of John Patterson. I went on a little bit of a tirade the other day when I was talking to minority leader in the Democrat House of Representatives, Ashley Awney, about property taxes. And property taxes is something that most Americans just pay. They don't think anything of it. I owe property taxes. I pay the property taxes. I put it in escrow. I do whatever I have to do. I think property taxes are incredibly punitive to people that have paid into the system for sometimes 40, 50, even 60 years. The idea that the state of Missouri and or offshoots, the Bridgetons of Missouri, which is what I was talking about, can come in and take the house away from elderly people because they can no longer afford to pay their property taxes, despite the fact that they are paying property taxes on some algorithm assessing the value of their home. It's not even real. It's not even money that's been realized. It's just if you paid $150,000 for your house 50 years ago, and now you're in your 80s and 90s, and the house is worth $700,000, and you're on a fixed income, you can't pay it. So they're just going to take your house away from you. This is the way we're going to run our government. This is the way the government's going to run our lives. Doesn't make any sense to me. And to be honest with you, I didn't think Ashley had a real clear. She understood the humanity in it, is what she said, but I don't think anybody has a clear idea of how to solve these issues. And it's frustrating to me. Mike, don't you think? Don't you think that's something that has to be resolved? We should not allow our government to take our homes from our elderly. It's crazy.
Well, and I think property tax in general is the cruelest of all taxes, because we've already paid the tax when we buy something, and now we're being told, well, it comes back to what everybody says: you don't really own anything if the government can take it away from you if you don't pay their ransom on it every year.
The ransom.
And that's where we're at on it. And then you add on top of it, now that they're doing all these high inflated audits on your homes with these valuations that are just on paper. They don't exist until you actually sell to realize some unrealized gains. Then it just multiplies the unfairness that you have to deal with these. And yeah, that should be what, if we're going to talk about starting to do anything with taxes in Missouri, that's where it should start. That's the tax that everybody's wanting something looked at. And yeah, it's going to take a lot of work to restructure things, but it needs to get started. And I think that's why Ashley didn't want to go down there, because they want that tax money that comes from it. So.
Yeah, well, that's the Democrat ideology. That's why I didn't bust her chops on it too terribly much, because the Democrats and their mindset, God love them, is we'll fix the problem. You send us your money and we'll take care of your problems for you. And I'm like, well, I don't want you to have my money, and I want to solve my own problems. Can we take a shot at that for once? Because you guys are not doing a very good job of solving the problems in my life. You're solving problems that you think society wants, but not necessarily what the individual wants, which is, in my particular instance, Robb Carter. Can we try Amy again, Isaiah?
Whenever she's ready, I'll bring her in.
She's still not getting sound?
Yeah.
All
Whenever she's in, you'll know.
All right, let's play this clip real fast then. Let's do Speaker Patterson, and I want to get Mike's opinion on it until we get Amy up and running. So Speaker Patterson does this, and again, this looks contrived to me. This is the Speaker of the Republican Party in Missouri, and he's out doing campaigning, knocking on doors, and he starts talking about property taxes right after we were screaming and yelling about it a couple days ago. Now he's knocking on doors, and all of a sudden he's hearing about property taxes. Check it out. It is clip number 5, Isaiah.
Hey, JP. Yeah. What are people talking about at the doors? Oh, it's property taxes, property taxes, property taxes. I'm meeting people every night that are having trouble keeping their homes because of property taxes. I think whatever we do, we got to make sure that they have some protections and are able to keep their property. I'm hearing a lot about personal property taxes. I don't think anyone should have to pay personal property taxes on a car that's 13 or 14 years old. And in terms of commercial property, they're going up 300, 400%. I think we got to offer them some protections as well, because if they can't stay in business, people lose their jobs.
I agree with every word that he says. I don't know what protections means, Mike.
But where was he? And I don't want people to forget something. The Amendment 5 that we just blew out, 83 to 17%. The original bill on that was HJR 173, 174. The 174 was sponsored by John Patterson. So let's not forget he was a key player. I know Bishop Davidson ended up being the one that carried the load on that, but it was John Patterson who also had the bill that they joined together on that.
So how do you think this works? Because I was going to ask you this. I think you might have more insight than the average bear. I'm thinking that Kehoe runs on it. They have that little trio, right, between Cindy O'Loughlin and John Patterson and Mike Kehoe. That's the power. Everybody else is there. In my opinion, it's ceremony. It's not real. Those are the people that make all the decisions for the state of Missouri. So he wins the election. His key initiative was to get rid of income taxes. So then he says, okay, let's throw that down into Patterson. Patterson writes the language for it or gets the ball rolling, and Bishop Davidson carries it and sells it. Is that the way I understand it? Just like a corporation would get your president, VP, and then your sales team.
There were some differences between the versions that Bishop had and that Patterson had. So I think they were trying to throw it out there, see which one they thought they could sell best. And again, neither one of them really, I know Bishop probably had more to do with the bill than John Patterson did his, but they were really done from outside groups. I think Alec had the most to do
Right.
with this whole thing. But I think it was a way to throw them out there, kind of see which way they thought they would be easiest to sell. And then it turned out that they decided to go with the Bishop Davidson route. And I also think that Patterson probably looking at, hey, I'm turned out here, I'm running for the Senate. Maybe this isn't going to be real popular. I mean, he might have already had an idea and stepped back a little bit on that. I'm not sure there, but again, he was Speaker of the House, and last summer, I think we talked about this last week, all the special committee that he set up on property tax that marched all around the state, and they did nothing. And that's really on John Patterson. And he represents the county that's probably been affected the most in all this, Jackson County. So I'm hoping that people will remember all that.
Well, they've already, I don't know. It's a little bit, everything seems so disingenuous to me. And I think that's what's frustrating is I look at the Missouri Republican Party, who are eventually going to turn on me and hate me, and they're all going to speak out except for a handful, because I continue to pound away at the idea that, listen, we kind of understand what our problems are. Maybe listen to the people, because we understand what we're suffering from more than you do. And what we suffer from is anxiety. We suffer from anxiety because of the system that you have implemented doesn't really work for the 80% of people that look to you to govern us properly. You can see it with the gasoline tax. No, everybody has to drive, right? So why in the world would a Republican say, you know what? One of the ways we need to capture income is to tax people on the fuel that they use to get to work, and then we'll pay payroll taxes, income taxes, property taxes. As I've said before, the only tax they haven't figured out yet is the tax on tax. And one of our guests, I think Isaiah might remember, said, well, that's just a tax on tax. And I said, well, maybe they did figure it out, and it's just hidden. I don't even see it. But the Republican Party, to me, right now, as it's structured, feels disingenuous. I don't know that it is. It could be just ineptitude. It could be they're trapped. I don't know what it is. But it feels to me like they're disingenuous. Does it feel like that to you? I know I know you come at it from the Republican point of view.
I think so, and I spend a lot of time trying to figure this out because it is kind of perplexing how they can be so far out of touch. But I think part of it is that people haven't been as involved as we should be for a long time, and they've gotten used to being a top down. Here's what we're going to feed you, and you're just going to accept it. And now they're learning that, hey, people are starting to pay attention. They're starting to ask the good questions, and hopefully we'll start to see some change. But I'm not confident we will, because if going back to the gas tax, like you talked about, the people of Missouri voted that down twice, and then they still found a way to push it through and put it up on us. So.
That's what I mean. When I say disingenuous, that's a perfect example. The people of Missouri didn't want the gas tax. They made it very clear they didn't want the gas tax. And then they did an end around to get the gas tax put in place. And the person that went around us to get the gas tax in place, both of them are in power now. You got Dave Schatz as the presiding commissioner in Franklin County, and Governor Kehoe is running the entire state. It's just incredible. Exactly. They do what the people don't want, and then they win elections. How does that work?
Yep. And it's perplexing. And we're going to see some of the people that just supported Amendment 5 that get voted back in November too.
100%.
And you have to ask yourself, how can we have people representing us that were so either one, you have to believe they were so far out of touch with the people of Missouri that they thought this would be a good idea, or two, they just didn't care and thought that they could bully their way through it and push it through on us.
Yeah, I was. Kit Lindsay says, I think it's for personal gain. And I do wonder that. I hate to be so crass, but I do believe that a lot of these people that are in the government, both in Washington, D.C., Jefferson City, even local governments, a lot of it's for personal power. When I won't even say his name anymore because I don't want to give him any more name recognition. But even there's a guy in St. Charles County, and I started looking into to their, I think it's called the committee, the St. Charles County Committee, whatever they are. It's the one that Joe Brazel is on. And one of the people in there was making decisions and redirecting contracts for the company that he worked for. And I thought, well, that has to be illegal, but it's not. So a guy sits on the committee. He works for a tech company, and then he directs tech business to the company that he works for as a member of the government. I'm thinking, well, isn't that has to be at the very least a form of fraud and corruption, but it's legal. And it would make sense that if you're trying to solicit for contracts for government money, taxpayer money, that you would get involved in these boards and direct them toward your own companies.
Well, and the other thing you'll notice on those type of issues is that even if you really truly believe that your buddy's company was the best company for the job, being in that situation, you would think you would go out of your way to show that and have a very open bidding process, bring people in, and really build the consensus that this is, and sign that I will not participate in the vote,
right,
recuse yourself and do those things. And none of that happens. I mean, we're seeing more and more, we're seeing the no bid process, and it's just going to be down to one person gets to make the decision, on who we go for a vendor.
I got to show you another one.
Okay.
I got to show you another one. So this is clip number 9, Isaiah. So this, I didn't know this. I didn't know this to be true. You probably know more about it than I do. But Jake Jackson, I believe, is the one who sent it to me. And it is Mike Moon had legislation in the Republican House to make flock cameras, safety cameras, license plate readers illegal in the state of Missouri. And they didn't do anything about it. And I keep saying, what does the Republican Party actually stand for? This is what I don't understand. And this is why I would have arguments with a lot of people in the establishment wing of the Republican Party. You don't believe that as Republicans that we should have the ability to move freely without the government tracking us? This is something the Republican Party now doesn't quite understand. Mike Moon seems to understand it because he put forth legislation before anybody was really talking about these safety camera operations. But he put forth the legislation and they sat on it. They did nothing. Yeah, it's like the getting live stream in the Senate. We put that out there and they go, no, we got so many things we got to do before you get to watch your Senate in action. So we're just not going to get to it this time. Maybe we'll get to it next time, this kind of deal. And it's frustrating.
Yeah. And you see now that I guess it's Senator Bean that's running to be the pro tem is talking about, I think it's maybe time to look at that. Well, we're tired of words. I saw somebody post on that with the lieutenant governor bringing it back up again on the video in the Senate and stuff. We're tired. We know what it costs. We know how to do it. Let's just somebody get it done, and let's end all this endless talk in committees, because right now it looks like he'll use it to get elected, and then he'll say, okay, well, we got to run it through committees, and we'll be through halfway through the next session. They'll say, well, we'll have to wait another year before we can actually implement it. And, I mean, let's just get it done.
Imagine a group of public servants. This is the way I would describe it to people. Imagine a group of public servants, because that's what politicians are supposed to be, public servants. Imagine a group of public servants that are signing contracts to make sure that your license plates are read everywhere you go so they can track and store the information about your every move. At the same time, they have ignored pleas to show the Senate in action governing their people. Just imagine a scenario where public officials are tracking every move that you make, funding it, contracting with these people. And then when you say, we want to watch you guys work because we're not really sure of what's going on in that Senate, they say, well, we'll get to that when we get to it. We're not going to be able to live stream, and you're not going to be able to watch us because we don't really know how to do it technically. We don't want people grandstanding and this, that, and the other. And it's so disingenuous and so ridiculous. And do they not see it, Mike? I got to ask you that. You're down there with these people more than I am. Do they not see it, or are they just obvious frauds?
I have a hard time believing they don't see it. Now let's talk about the flock cameras, because yes, we're seeing that implemented at the county and the city level, but they're implementing with money that our legislature passed for Governor Kehoe's, what does he call it? His blue something program, where each county can get a $50,000 grant. Well, with that grant, they can only spend it on a few things. And guess what? The most obvious thing for them to spend it on is the flock cameras. So really, the flock camera stuff is coming from the state level, or it's being funded by the state level. So, again,
is it really? Is that how this is working?
That's how this is working. That's where most of the counties and cities are applying for these grants that the governor pushed through in his crime bill, not this last session, the session before, that would give grants to communities for $50,000. And again, there was only a handful of things they could spend that money on. But the main one was the flock cameras. We actually had to fight it off here in our local town of Warrensburg last year, and we'll be back to fight it again this year.
Unbelievable.
So so again, taking it back to the video in the Senate, what you just said is even more important because they're the ones that are funding the cameras to watch us, but are refusing to put the cameras in so we can watch our elected officials.
As I like to say, bass backwards. It is bass backwards, and it's always bass backwards. The way if you talk to politicians enough, if you're, I think when it comes to freedom, it is something that I take. The constitutional freedoms are something that I think all politicians have some understanding of. And when you talk to them, they see the government as number one, a business. I think they see it as a business. They see it as a way to collect money into a pool, and then they redistribute it based on how they can get votes. That is exactly the opposite of what a constitutional republic is. And, the conversation I had with G. Edward Griffin the other day, and he talked about the chasm. And when he was talking about it, honestly, I had questions in my mind, so I wasn't following it. And then I went back. I'm putting clips together for our team to put clips out there. And I listened to what he said again, and it's profound. He's 94 years old, and he's much wiser than me, I would assume. And he said, what we're dealing with is our government has learned how to put people in groups. And he said, groups are abstract. He said the number 7 isn't abstract. It's just it's just one person 7 times, but there is no such thing really as 7 because you can't group these people together because they're all individual. And I said, when he said that, I said, well, you're talking about individual liberties as the way they're described in our Constitution. He said, exactly. He goes, it is the protection of the individual. He goes, when you lump people into groups, that becomes abstract, and then you can make money on the groups because you're taking the liberty of the individual away on behalf of the collective. He goes, it's a trick. It's a chasm that we have to get out of. He said, but if every single person looked at it as though, okay, is that what I want? Do I want to pay property taxes? Does Robb Carter want to pay property taxes? Forget about the whole. Does Robb Carter want to pay the property taxes? And the answer to that is an emphatic no. I don't want to pay property taxes. I want to be able to own everything that I purchased, and I paid a tax, maybe a retail tax when I bought it. I want that to be mine in perpetuity. And if I want to give it to my children, I don't want to pay a tax to give it to my children. And then my grandchildren should be able to take it on. And that is the problem with property taxes. If let's say that my first home that I bought in Winghaven, you guys know Winghaven, right there in O'Fallon. So I bought that home, and I believe the price was $265,000. So it was $265,000 when I bought it. As I understand it now, and I don't know this, but as I understand, I think we looked it up not too long ago. It was around $550,000 is the value. I'm only 56 years old. Let's say I stayed in that house, and I stay in that house, and I live to be 85 years old, 30 years from now. And now that house is worth $1.1 million, but I'm on a fixed income from the age of 65. Theoretically, I don't even own the home because if I can't pay the property taxes, not only can they take the house away from me, I can't even give it to my kids without paying a tax. So as an individual, would you accept that? And the answer would always be no. Yet we're tricked into paying these taxes because the government apparatus and their marketing and the way they con people has said, this is for everybody, Rob. Don't you understand? You can't have that beautiful school with that $7 billion football field unless you pay your taxes to us so that we can allocate it to our friends over here in the school system. Don't you get it? It's for the greater good. And what he tried to explain in that little short video that we did with him was that you have to stay focused on the individual liberty. If once you get outside of the framework of the individual liberty, you're going to fall for groups, and groups are abstract, and groups is where the government gets you. And it made a lot of sense to me. It's 50 something pages. I'm going to have to get to a printer and get it out to people. But he is a brilliant guy, 94 and a half years old with a mind that is, the wisdom in that guy was fantastic.
Well,
and
if people want to know what Act from Missouri, we're kind of on our summer vacation after the primary. And if people want to know what does Act from Missouri do while they're on vacation, me and Amy are both reading The Creature from Jekyll Island.
Are you really?
Yeah. And I started, and I was like, Mike, have you started that book yet? You're going to lose your mind. And he's like, no, not yet. And then he said, oh my God, I'm in like chapter 4. I'm furious. I'm like, okay, keep going. Wait till you get to chapter 22.
I just finished chapter 11, so I'm catching up to Amy. But
you got to check this out. I'm going to get you guys signed copies, by the way, because I'm going to make friends with him.
I would love a signed copy.
That'd be awesome.
I loved him. So when I was doing the original podcast, I had this woman named Michelle, came from the Soviet Union. She came to the United States about a year after the Soviet Union fell. And I'm in a private conversation with her one time, and she goes, surely you've read the Creature from Jekyll Island. I'd never heard of the book. You know, and I go,
Right.
no, I haven't read it. She goes, well, you talk like you've read it. And I said, well, I don't even know what you're talking about. I go, what is it? And she started explaining the book to me. She goes, you got to get the book. And I've read excerpts from the book. I have not read the entire book because I'm a loser right now and I don't spend any time reading like I used to. I don't. It's embarrassing, but that's the truth. And everybody that reads it, it changes their perception of how this world actually works. Would you
It
agree with that?
actually
Sarah?
it validated a lot.
It
Yeah,
validated
it
yours,
It
yeah.
validates and
validated.
it fills in some of the
Yep.
gaps because we've been on this journey, me and Amy, going and figuring out what's going on with our local government, and it's like peeling back onions. You think, okay, now we're
There's a
starting to
layer.
see
Yep.
it, and then there's another layer that makes it even worse. And well, this is really getting us, I think, to the absolute core of what's going on in the country, and that's why I do urge everybody to read the book. It is a long book, but it's so worth it.
I don't think it's very hard to read.
No,
Some of it is, but you know what? I'll just tell people, just if it doesn't make sense, just keep on reading. And you know, even I love his summary. It's a scam.
It's a scam.
It's a scam.
Yep.
When you
He said
read the book, it's so clear. And I'm like, we have been living, you know, we went with a group of friends last week. We were sitting at the table and we were just talking about all of this. And I think there's that moment where you just realize it's just all a facade. It's all a lie. Everything we've been trained, everything we've believed, everything it's a mechanism. I don't know what to call it.
Control mechanism.
A control mechanism, yeah. And it just becomes clearer and clearer. Part of me is like, okay, I'm glad I see it for what it is. There's another part of me that's terrified. I'm like, what does this mean? If none of this is what we thought it is, and it's all based on propaganda and manipulation, and then I'm overwhelmed with, then what do we do? That's
Right.
huge. That is a huge thing. And then so what you start out is the state level, we're doing something on the state, and then you realize, well, no, it's pretty much tied to the federal. And then you go back to the federal and you're like, well, no, that interferes with the state. And sometimes I wonder if even our elected officials even know how huge it really is. And sometimes the cognitive dissonance is so strong and so real. And that's just where your brain, you know, when you have things in your mind that, you know, okay, this is a way that life is, then you can operate your life and you feel very comforted. When that gets messed up and your morals and your values or things, the way you thought things were shift, that's really a mind, you know what. And you're like, I have to figure this out. And your whole world, your whole perspective changes. It can be really disturbing.
Yeah.
So
And I was going to ask you.
we're disturbed. We're disturbed right now.
I agree. I'm disturbed as well. I was going to ask you guys, you know, especially Amy, after that commentary, do you find that when you are talking to people that are interested in politics, but you know, it's kind of on the edges, they read, they talk about it, and they really don't know what's going on, but you know, they hear stuff at work or they hear something on television or a friend says something to them and they want to engage in the debate. They learn about as much about politics because they're talking to a friend than they would really digging in and finding anything out. Do you recognize that when you start to talk about the realities of, hey, did you ever think of this? Because I do this I have some older buddies that I'm getting ready to go on a golf trip with. And one of them was just in town. He said, Rob, I'm coming through Orlando. Let's have some lunch. I went and had lunch. And I talked to him and he's looking at me, you know, like a dog looks at you sometimes when they're trying to figure out what command they want to get. And I got done and he goes, are you serious? And I said, yeah. He goes, this is information that's out there. And I said, yeah. He goes, Rob, I don't even know what you're talking about. He did. He had no clue about the Federal Reserve System, the relationship between the states and the federal government, how the media operations work, how social media is working. He had no concept of it. A wealthy guy, I wouldn't say wealthy, but well-to-do guy, wonderful person, a big heart, no clue what I was talking about. And that's why Dr. Shiva always fascinates me, because he's basically saying you're never going to have a clue if you subscribe to the system that you're in. If you're just saying, this is fine with me for now. I got a refrigerator full of food. I might have to work till I'm 75, 80 years old, but it feels stable. It feels comfortable to me. I don't want to rock the boat because I could go backwards, and I don't want to go backwards. So let's kind of keep things the way they are now. I think it's exactly what you said. It's cognitive dissonance. These people do not want to, they don't want to make the world a better place. They just want the world to be stable and their perception of it to remain strong.
Right.
Does that
You know,
seem fair?
Dr. Shiva said a great thing when he said education. You just have to keep learning, try to understand, get a bigger perspective. And like you said, you talk to your friends. I mean, yeah, we go to groups where we are cautious about how deep we go into something. Like, these people are going to not even think we're sane. So we have to stay within like some boundaries of where they're like, okay, they're valid. Okay, because you get too far out there too fast, and they just look at you. Yeah, like, and we don't want them, we want them to just be open-minded and keep listening. And then we really try to say we expose a little and we validate, and they see it and they cope with that. And then, okay, we got to let out a little bit more and a little more.
It's so funny you say that.
It's deprogram. I mean, it's deprogramming, right?
It
Like
is.
a cult
Yeah.
deprogramming.
It's really though. It's just us leading them down the path that we've already traveled. So
Pretty
we've already
much.
gone through this and said, "Oh my God, this can't be right," and then we validate it, and then we move a little bit further down.
Yeah.
So we're just trying to bring people down the path we've already gone. Is what we're really trying to do.
It's so true. So true.
I was going to tell you, Amy, I have when I first started doing the podcast, I tell everybody I had no intention really. When I said the future #1 podcast in America, that was the first podcast that I did. It just came off the top of the mind. I was joking. I was being sarcastic because I didn't even plan on doing but one when I first started. I planned on.
Well, it was the best one.
my son said you should do it. We did one, and here we are, 6-7 years later. But I had this lady that was working with me out in California, and her son ultimately became the producer of my show. And so they would hear the show, they would make the sound right, because I did a lot of music in it. The original one was based on music at the beginning of it. I would tap dance through a song that was going to be the topic of the day. Okay, so it was a song, and I'd use the song lyrics to get people kind of amped up with the music, and I would kind of dance through and make commentary through the song about what we were going to talk about on that day. And I was talking to her one time, and I said, "What do you think?" I might have been into 30 or 40 podcasts at the time. And she goes, "Well, this last one," she goes, "I'm just talking to my friends." And she said, I'll put it to you this way. Move them along in baby steps. She goes,
Mhm.
I think you're taking them to a point where they don't really understand that just yet. She goes, my advice to you is don't shock them to the point where you're telling them, where you and I are coming from, but
Right.
take it baby steps so they can
Right.
digest it over a period of time. And that always stuck with me. So when I do the show, even now, I try to make it so that it's easy for people to understand the way it would have had to have been explained to me. Because when I went through the process of saying this government and what I have taught and what I believe isn't true, I recognize no longer should I believe the things that were taught to me, even in school, through media, through the documentaries that they put on television, all the indoctrination that you get. Because if you ask people, this is a perfect example. If you ask people about a world event, I'm getting ready to watch this movie, Napoleon, on Apple
Mhm.
TV, right? That will be, I don't know anything about Napoleon. I'm going to watch this, and that's going to be my interpretation of the
Right.
background of Napoleon. There's no rhyme or reason to it. I won't anymore. I'm just going to enjoy the movie. But in reality, this is where people get their information from. And it always goes back to, for me at least, very young in life was Helter Skelter. Did you guys watch Helter Skelter, the
Yeah.
TV movie when it was out?
Yeah.
I believed Helter Skelter exactly the way Vincent Bugliosi wrote it in the book Helter Skelter. And then the movie was based on the book. So that was my interpretation of the Manson family and the murders in the late 60s.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
then this guy, Tom O'Neill, comes out and says the entire story is just complete and total nonsense. There's no reality to it whatsoever. And then I read his book and I started putting the pieces together and studying it because it's something I was very familiar with, was that Manson story. I wrote about it in high school and college. And he's right. The entire story that everybody has carried around for 55 years, 50 years was complete made up nonsense. The entire story about Helter Skelter is not true. The premise, the people involved, how the whole thing laid out is completely almost the opposite of the way it's described in the book Helter Skelter. And I think this is that's just one example of what I think the entire world faces is we are getting our information from people that we have trusted, from sources that we believed in. And when you dig down deep, as you guys are now with the Missouri government, you're starting to find out that a lot of things that we were taught they're just narratives. They're just storytelling. They're just, it's like a marketing campaign to convince people of this is the world you live in, not the real world, but the one we want you to believe.
Yeah.
Fair?
I saw a meme in sort of on COVID, and it said it's the New World Order versus the Great Awakening. And that really resonated with me because I thought, you know what? That is exactly where we are. We are going to go for the New World Order, or we're going to have a great awakening. And that's going to be painful, because waking up is painful. You know,
Yep.
whether it's addiction, whether it's your lifestyle, it's hard, because all of a sudden you realize I got to make some changes, and that means whatever for each of us. But yeah, it's the Great Awakening. I do think people are learning, but there's a lot of emotion that comes with that awakening. You're upset, you're bitter, you're angry, you're betrayed. I mean, we've gone through it. We have gone through all of them. I mean, thank goodness we both have the psych and social background, because we've had to basically self-therapy ourselves through, I mean, this, Mike goes into his writing, and I'm just like, Mike, I got to go outside. Like, I got to get out in the trees and the bird and just like ground myself, because I can't believe what I'm reading. I can't believe what I'm hearing, because it's such a false premise, and people have based their whole lives on a false premise. And then to tell them or point that out, no wonder some people just put their head in the sand and go, you know what, my life's pretty good, and that's just the way I'm going to stay. Because I just, I'm good. I'm good. I don't, I'm just going to focus on my home, and I'm like, oh God, please don't. We need we need a little bit more than I'm good. We need you to wake up.
Yeah,
Right.
but as things get less and less comfortable, while it's comfortable, you can get away with that. But as things get tougher and
Yeah.
and situations are getting tougher for folks, then it's harder for you to escape that. And the one thing I liked to hear Dr. Shiva say today was talking about, basically you have to understand the concepts and know where you're thinking instead of the personalities, I think was where he was headed with that.
Yeah.
Because that's how we get driven. I look at all the criticism that me and Amy and you are taking from the Republican Party, but I went back and looked at some of the stuff that I was posting 6 or 7 years ago. I'm posting the same things. I still believe the same things. It's the party that's drifted from the platform that I was attracted to in the first place. It's not, I'm saying the same things. And now I'm a Democrat for believing what I used to be
Considered a Republican. What's the old comment? I didn't leave the party left me.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's kind of the way it feels to me. And that's why I get really frustrated with people that I know personally. I'm sure you guys feel the same way in the state of Missouri, who I think are good-hearted people trying to do the right thing. But they really do see, and I don't even know if they see it in themselves, they put the party above everything. It's protection of the party. It's the party. It's the party. It's the party. I'm like, why are you protecting a party that has been jamming you for years and years and years and years now? Why are you still so beholden to propping up the Republican Party? Why not challenge the Republican Party? Say, well, listen, we're down with you, but you got to do X, Y, and Z, and you need to do it with some quickness. I need to see some legislation. I need to see leadership pass these bills. I need to see action before you get my love anymore. Right now, you haven't earned my love. You haven't earned my respect. You haven't earned my trust or confidence. Therefore, I'm going to challenge you. They don't want to do it. I'm watching all these people that I'm friendly with, and everything in their world is Democrat and Republican. They cannot. They just refuse to see it outside of that lens. You see that? I mean, you guys have to see it.
Yeah.
Well, I was actually going to comment, because I told Mike, I remember when we first started coming on the podcast, you too were saying, well, the Republicans, Democrats. I'm like, Rob, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Rob, it doesn't matter. And then I've noticed over the weeks and the months, I'm like, Rob doesn't even go to that anymore. He's like, it's all the same. They're them.
I evolved.
We're over here. You evolved.
I evolved. I did, because even if you remember, Amy, when I was on the radio the first time and I would have these blow-ups, I remember pounding on the desk about ready to have a heart attack, because I couldn't wrap my brain around the fact that the Republican Party was so inept that they couldn't just take basic, simple wins and get things done for the people of Missouri. And I was so frustrated with it, because I thought, well, these people have to be somewhat evil or semi, their brains aren't working, or that's not going to the top floor. And that was so frustrating to me that I would lose my temper over and over. And then I'm like, well, why lose your temper? This is what it is. Instead of losing your temper, maybe just expose it for what it is, bring more people into your camp, and then take these people on at the state level. I think that's the only option we have anymore, is to bring awareness to it. That's all you can do.
But look how brilliantly it worked. Yeah. It worked brilliantly to get you emotional and to argue and to go against other people. And that's the whole strategy.
But they're bringing it back to Dr. Shiva's comments, though. Once you see this and you understand it, then it doesn't matter who they bring out for their influencers that they pay to post on there to try to convince you that their way's right and that what you're seeing isn't what you're seeing. that their endorsements don't matter because you're seeing things clearly. And I think that's what Dr. Shiva is trying to get us to. And I 100% support that.
It takes me to my next question I wanted to have for you guys. So I was watching this. I was making the comparisons in my head the other night. I said, if you look at the social media, even the network influencers. So I give you a Mark Levin, a Laura Loomer, a Benny Johnson. There's this guy named Doherty out there. There's the Gunther Engelman or whatever his name is. So these are all people that are making a living by acting as though they are individual influencers, but really all they're doing is taking talking points from somewhere, reposting that, saying it in a manner that is convincing, and then taking a paycheck for basically being a part of a system while acting like they're independent journalists, right? And then I said, that's exactly what happened with amendments 4 and 5. You had Americans for Prosperity. You had all of these people coming out, and they're supposedly grassroots organizations. We had that Ashley Auni, that Democrat, and she said, Americans for Prosperity is out there telling people they're winning on a day-to-day basis, and we're winning. We're going to win this thing, and they're out there selling it. They could not have been listening to their constituents because it lost 83-17. So the people that would normally say, I'm for Americans for Prosperity, obviously weren't with Americans for Prosperity because 83-17 is a tail kicking of enormous proportions. So they weren't there listening to their constituents trying to say, okay, we hear you and we're going to work on your behalf. What they were doing was working for somebody behind the scenes that is giving them talking points that they have to there go out and sell. So the influencer game at the state level is very similar to the way it is at the federal level. It is paid people that are supposed to be independent, but they're really not.
Yeah.
True?
Yeah.
True. And we see this. And so initially when we started doing it, the comments, like you said, I'd just be like, oh, I can't believe they said that. Mike, we got to get in there and defend it. Now I look at it, I go, cha-ching, that's $7,000, cha-ching, 5,000. And because it's repetitive, it's the same thing. You start to see it. And now
we were actually starting to place bets amongst ourselves when we post something. Which one of them is going to be the first one to post on our deal on Amendment 5 or Amendment 4 when we post something? Because it was just like clockwork. It was going to be one of 5 or 6 people that was always going to be the first one to put their standard rebuttal reply on it.
There's only 2 more.
I was like, I swear they get an alert that says, because it's in a mechanism in there, they're being paid to monitor. And when it comes in, then they post. If we can ever prove that, woo!
Yeah, there's only 2 more playing the game with me right now. I won't even mention their names, but when A4 and A5 was going down, I would post something and all these people would flood me. They were arguing with me. They were going at me. They don't do that anymore. They've taken the tact, as G. Edward Griffin said. He said, if you're being effective, he goes, the step 1, he goes, you'll recognize is they ignore you. They're big. First of all, they were debating with me a little bit. Then they didn't like where the debates were going because, I'm pretty well informed as to what's going on. And I have a way of getting them to either go away because they can't answer a question or put them in a position where they really don't want to answer it because they know that I'm onto it. And then they just went away. Now you only have a couple of people sporadically that will, if I put something out onto social media, they're not responding to it anymore. They're ignoring what's the freedom principle. Every once in a while, we'll pop something on there. Mike Koslow every now and again, because Mike Koslow is one of these guys that will argue anything. He's very, I don't even know what the word for it is, but he's good at just taking and kind of, I'm confused at the end of it kind of situation. That's kind of where I look at Mike Koslow. Those are the only 2 that are even engaging anymore. All those people that were pounding on me when I was coming on saying, hey, you better be careful because I'm okay with you debating with me and arguing with me. But when you start to frame me in a manner that's not me, I will find you in some of these events and it's going to get ugly for you. Not physically. I'm too old to fight. Yeah. I'm talking about, I'm going to make it face to face. I'm going to make an example of you. People are going to recognize who you are and it's going to be very uncomfortable for you. And when I started to say that, they all started to dissipate. They went away. And I wonder if they'll come back. And that's the next one.
I think they will. I think we'll see them come back on the new amendments.
A7. The money for A4 and A5 is dried up. So if there was a money issue, then that explains why some of them have disappeared. But there'll be more issues.
We actually think some of them, we're not sure who, they're actually being paid to post.
I think so.
And so but like I said, we just don't have the proof, but that makes sense. If you're a marketing and you're a campaign, you'd say, okay, we're going to hire you, keep track of how many, minutes you spend or how many posts or rebuttals.
Human nature tells me that they're getting paid because if you look at the rhetoric,
Yeah.
that they're putting out there. And then you look at the comment section, some people would have 60, 70, 80 comments, and they're all negative.
Mhm.
And just as a
Mhm.
human being, if you're putting something out there and the people that are your friends that are paying attention to your Facebook posts and so forth, if they're all saying you're a shill for the Republican Party, you're so
Mhm.
full of it, this is what this bill is going to do, you're lying about this, and you get that over and over, you would just stop doing it, because why take the heat? They never stopped.
Mhm.
They kept going and
Mhm.
going and going and going, and tried to the very last day to convince the people of Missouri
Yep.
that they were winning the argument on, let's say, A5, for example. They were winning the argument on A5 and then lose 83-17, which to me, again, is incredible. Just incredible.
I actually wanted to play a video for you guys on A5 because we had the Missouri State Fair that just ended last week, and
Okay.
Scott Fawn caught up with
Yeah.
Governor Kehoe,
Saw that.
and
I
they
saw
spoke
it.
about A5. So I just wanted to hear
Yep.
y'all's reaction, and I don't even know if Rob's seen this video, so I'm curious to see what he says, because they talk about new legislation
Yep.
as a response to A5 going down, looking at
Mhm.
introducing new legislation, and just listen to what he has to say, because it's interesting, and I'm curious to see what type of legislation they'll create based off of what he says. So here's the video. This is Scott Fawn interviewing Governor Kehoe at the Missouri State Fair last week.
A mixed bag coming out of the elections. A couple of the referendums didn't go maybe the way you'd wanted. Tell folks going forward, what is your view, taking those results into account, of what you're going to do to lower folks' taxes?
Well, specifically on Amendment 5, as we talk to people kind of post-mortem, we still have people say we'd like to keep more of our money. I still say if they wrote a check for their income tax once a year like they do property tax, they'd probably be a little more sensitive
Why
to
can't they?
how much they are. Well, you might see some legislation that does that, as a matter of fact, but we're absolutely very much talking about that. So people still want to keep more of their money. They didn't like the way the presentation. So our commitment is to try to come up with tax reform that lets Missourians keep more of their hard-earned money. That could be taking a stab at property tax, or some property tax reform looks like, but always we're going to keep our eye focused on the state income tax, because we know the states that don't have that are way more competitive than us, and we need to try to find a way to get there.
That's what Ashley Awney said. She's a Democrat. She said the exact same thing.
All right. So I just point out, because audio of this, so it's very interesting. So the grassroots is saying you need to reduce spending and put the budget in check. They just will not acknowledge that. So their counterpoint, you can already see it, is you're going to get to keep more of your money. Listen, it's our money you're spending, and we're saying stop spending. So quit trying to tell us, oh, we're going to let you keep more of your money.
And have you noticed
No.
it's always tax reform, not tax elimination?
Yeah, and that's
Right.
because it's not really tax elimination at all. When he says let you keep more of your money, he's not really letting you keep more of your money. The A5 was a switch between where you pay your money, but it wasn't
Exactly.
And so,
And even if they do put in a bill, it's interesting. I listened to his whole thing. So yes, I think we'll see something probably about you'll have to write a check at the end of the year, because they think that's going to be some strategic move, that if we have to painfully write the check out,
Yeah,
it
that
will
was the most
somehow make it
interesting thing to
different.
me.
Yeah.
He did give a clue. Another thing he mentioned was the safe legislation. So there's going to be something again for public safety. It was there in the language. So I'm like, okay, they're going to either go for the cameras. There's something that's going to relate. He is big on the police state, the safety, the safety, the safety. And all I hear is less freedom, less freedom, less freedom.
Yeah.
It's going to be, I already feel like it's going to be a crazy ride this next session.
Wouldn't surprise me if it's a little wild, to be honest with you, because I think the young people of Isaiah's age, this is my son's age, and I'm crazy about my son. I love him, and I pay attention to his friends. I coach baseball, so I know all the people that he hangs out with. And they're on the same page as Isaiah. They are not buying into the rhetoric that goes out of our federal government or the state government. They're wise to it, which is amazing to me. It really is, that you can talk
I
to
know,
a
it's such a
30-year-old.
young age.
Yeah, that has
I
more of
think-
an understanding. And it's because they're hurting. That's why.
yeah, I think that they're hurting, and also, they're the first generation that wasn't brought up on the traditional news media, the Fox News, the CNN, the old network news, the newspapers. So really, our politicians are stuck trying to manage both avenues to control us now. They've still got to manage the Fox News channel, CNN dynamic, but they've also got to jump into this new dynamic, and it's much harder to do because of people like what you're doing, Rob. The more independent we get out there a message is out there, the harder it is for them to control the narratives.
Agreed. And I think that's why you ultimately get a little bit suppressed. I do. Isaiah and I,
Oh, absolutely.
we monitor numbers and we put something out, and I don't even know how it happened, but we had one of the clips from the show, and we gained I think we have 11,000 something. We just put this Facebook page up, and we have 11 something thousand followers right away, thanks to Isaiah, because he understands what he's doing. But outside of that, if you just do the show, you can kind of see the reaction to the show. So there's for me, there's two components I look at. Engagement, number one, whether people like what they're hearing, whether they're sticking around. And you can see that people that find it, that listen to it for a week or so, okay, I want to get information here. I might not listen to 3 hours, but I'm going to check in here and there. I'm going to do these kind of things. And then you see the numbers of people that see it through their feeds. You can also see the views, and you see engagement and likes and those kind of things, people that are engaging. You see those numbers go up. At the same time, the amount of people that see it either stays steady or starts to dwindle away. And I'm like, isn't that fascinating how that works? Because it should be illegal. It should be illegal. I should have, as an independent journalist, I should not be placed behind the 8 ball like Dr. Shiva was talking about, for people that are engaged with the Republican Party or engaged with the Democrat Party, that are singing the talking points. They get reach and we don't. And that should be illegal. That should not be allowed in a free society. And yet what they do is exactly what Dr. Shiva tried to explain again today. What they do is they commingle the private and the public. So when the public needs a defense, they say, well, it's a private company.
Yeah.
It's a private, we can't tell Apple what to do. We can't tell Meta what to do. It's a private company. Well, then make it not private. It's very simple. Just make it not private, because you tell me if this is a good argument. I'm curious to see. This is where I was leading to anyway. I think this is a good argument. If I was born in let's say I was into politics, it's 1952, and I'm heavy into politics, and I'm trying to call people and organize them on a daily basis. I'm calling Mike, and I'm calling Amy, and I'm calling my neighbors, and I'm calling politicians. I'm saying we have to get together because we have an oppressive government that is about to have a system that will create total tyranny. And then all of a sudden, I can't call Amy anymore. I can't call Mike anymore. I'm calling these politicians, and it rings busy every time. I can't call them anymore. Now, in order to see them, I have to drive all the way out and meet them face to face in Jefferson City, because I can't call them. And then I go to Jefferson City and I say, wait a minute, what happened here? I was trying to call Amy. I was trying to call Mike. I was trying to call this person, and it's busy every time. And they say, well, Rob, you're being the platform, Ma Bell, has determined that they don't want you to have that kind of reach, and that's legal because it's Ma Bell. That is a private business. There's nothing we can do about it. Ma Bell is a private operation, and if they don't want you to be able to call Amy, there's really nothing we can do about it. That's the equivalent of what I think is going on here. If they can limit how many people see or get involved in the conversation, then they have full control over the information systems, which again, in a free society, I think should be illegal. And I think we should be talking to our politicians saying, what are you doing? Why aren't you fixing this immediately? Because they're not even talking about fixing it.
I guess it kind of makes you think. So when you think about phone service, while it did start out private, it became a public utility. And I guess the question on the table
That's my
is,
point.
should internet service, should the social media platforms, which are now the new town square, should that be a public utility?
I think they should.
And maybe
they are anyway. They're just being limited by the power. That's
right.
How they are public.
But right.
Maybe we need to take your argument and flip it so that the people understand it, because if from a consumer point of view, it's like if they had the ability on the radio days when people were broadcasting on the radio, if they could remove a channel from certain people's radio, so you couldn't get a certain channel.
There you go.
Or that's a good one. Okay.
Because
maybe that's even better.
Point of view, that's exactly what they're doing. They're limiting the consumer's ability to actually view.
What they want to say, yeah.
If you look at Dr. Shiva, when I first started following him, I don't want to make up a number, but I know it was in the millions. Okay, my mind keeps thinking 3 million, but I'm not so sure about that. You get older, you start to lose track of some of that stuff. But I know it was in the millions, and I was following him when he was going after Dr. Fauci. He said, "I know more about this than Dr. Fauci has ever known in his life. This guy's a total charlatan and a fraud. I want to debate him," and he went after him, and that's when he caught my attention. He puts out we were just talking about it. Isaiah said, he does these videos online, and he has, almost no reach at all. I have more reach sometimes on the stuff that I put out there than Dr. Shiva does. I'm like, and now it shows on X that he has 300 and some thousand followers. If he puts a tweet out, it's generally between 2,000 and 4,000 people that even get to see it, just to see it. And it doesn't run through their feeds anymore. I just think that it has to be equal. Whatever the algorithm is, it should be equal for all. If you determine that you are a news source and you stick around in the game for, let's say, a year, right? If you create content for a year and you consider yourself an independent purveyor of news, I should have the same opportunities as Fox News, as CNN, or Benny Johnson, or Tucker Carlson. I should have the same opportunity to reach people. Whether people want to stick with me or they like Tucker Carlson better, that is up for them to decide. He should not
goes
have.
back to being a free market. Then at that point,
that would be a free market. Free
Mhm.
market news is
No.
what I would describe it as.
Completely
All
agree.
right.
Hey, I'm going to back up on your comment about your young ones, and that's good. The 30-year-olds, like I've told some of them, they're so good with tech. They're so good, and I just want to listen. The Gen X, we can rally, we can hold the line, and we can be really rowdy and really defiant. That's what Gen X is great at, right? We've been able to do that throughout our lives. You know, we're the kids that grew up, you know, the feral kids that grew up with our parents. So I'm like, we can do that, but the young ones are the ones that are going to really be the ones to fight the fight. So
That's why that's why we get excited. Our numbers are, I think it was under the age of 44. I think Isaiah, we're talking about. It's a third of our audience.
Awesome.
So a third of it's
Thank you,
fantastic.
because we can only, like I told him, like, listen, guys, I'm almost 60. I'm hanging on, but it's up to
know.
you. Well,
I
I'll do the
always give-
best I can.
Yeah, I give credit to Isaiah. Maybe I think he has, young people that are in his life, and maybe they started paying attention to their show
Awesome.
and showed it to a few people. But
Thank
we
you.
we're starting to get a foothold with young people. It could be I coach baseball too, so I have a lot of kids that played baseball in my organization, and they're probably listening in and that, telling their friends, that kind of deal. And it spreads. That's the one thing about information when it comes from somebody you know. Is you go, oh, I got a friend that I worked with. He's got a show and you should check it out every night. You get that kind of thing. It's wonderful to see young people getting engaged in their lives, because ultimately you got to have a government that works for you. If you don't have a government that works for you, you're in really big trouble. And I think we're heading in that road to where the government gives us lip service and imagery and nonsense, but they're not really putting anything before us that makes our lives better.
And if you think about it, our two, we always like Bryant and we like Mazzy, and they're under 40, right? So some of our best elected reps are of that age group. So we just need, we've got the other good ones too, Moon for sure, but I just think we need that tech savvy age group in office.
Amen.
That's my opinion.
Amen.
Gen X, yes, rebel rousers unite. Exactly.
All right. I'm going to get one thing out with you before I leave. Let me get advertising in. But you guys think about it. I want to know what you're thinking, because I think, Mike, didn't you put something out on Amendment 7? This is going to be on the ballot again.
Yeah.
Okay. Give me your opinion on Amendment 7. Let me do some advertising and you think about it. And then I want to get your opinion, your initial response to Amendment 7 that will be on the ballot in November. And I want to see what your take is on it, because you're one of those people that can read it, digest it, make sense of it. And I'm not so good at that. All right. Carrington Financial, yourcaringadvisor.com. Don't forget about my good friend, Rick Bavitz. You can see him every Tuesday on this very show, talking about currency, finances, history, our government, everything. He knows something about everything. And I think he's a brilliant person. And I think if you have money to protect or save and you're nearing retirement, you should at least speak with him. It doesn't cost you anything to get an idea. Biblical principles with your money. Get a second, get a third, get a fourth, get a fifth opinion. I don't care how many opinions you get. Just get the opinion of Rick Bavitz before you make big decisions about your money. If you have not realized, it's a very tumultuous society that we live in right now. You do not know if this stock market is going to go through the moon or eventually crash. He has all kinds of different ways to explain whatever your risk for tolerance is. He'll put a program together for you, and I think you'll really like him personally. 314-671-0525. Check him out. Yourcaringadvisor.com. And then we've got my good friend Mitch and my good friend Brian from rocketcareers.com. If you're out of work, if you hate your job, if you're sitting in your home going, how am I going to pay the bills? I'm starting to panic just a little bit here, honey. What are we going to do? Reach out to rocketcareers.com. They have a network from coast to coast. They have people in their fold that can help you launch a new career. They'll show you how to put your resume together. They'll show you how to do an interview. They'll show you techniques that will help you land a job that satisfies your soul. A lot of people just work for a paycheck. They don't like it. They're not happy with it, but they just got to do it. What else am I going to do? I got to work. I got to feed these kids, and I hate this job, but what am I going to do? Reach out to rocketcareers.com. That's why they call themselves rocketcareers.com, ROCKIT careers.com. They will help you launch a new career. And again, the big business for all of these type of operations goes through small businesses, medium to small businesses. If you don't have a human resources department, or maybe you do have a human resources department because you hired your neighbor and they really don't put good candidates before you, it's hard to find talent for your company. reach out to rocketcareers.com. They do the vetting for you. They'll put good candidates so that you can drive your business with better employees. Rocketcareers.com, ROCKIT careers.com. Again, my good friends, Mitch and Brian, both are going to be on the show here before too terribly long. You can reach them at 636-778-2419, 636-778-2419. My buddy in the app, Papa Bill, he knows Mitch very well. I think they were friends when they were younger. All right, you guys got to tell me quickly, because I got to get the other part of I got to pay the money to get my gums clean. You know, I mean, you can't get your teeth cleaned in the state of Florida without you getting your gums manicured. What do you think of? It's crazy. The whole system of our lives is insane.
It's terrible. Don't even get me on the health system.
I'm telling you, I went from, I think it was
Paid.
40, somewhere between $4,000 and $5,000. They wanted to clean my gums to the first dentist that I went to. And they wanted me to sign. I mean, they were like, I was getting ready to sign. I go, what is this? And she said, this is to get your gums cleaned. I looked over at the side at the money and I go, what is this? She goes, well, this is what you'd have to pay out of pocket. I said, I don't need my gums cleaned. I'm good. And I left. And then I started telling my in-laws about it. And they said, we went through the same thing. They were trying to get us for a bunch of money to clean our gums. We're like, we're 70 years old. Look at my gums. They're fantastic. I don't need my gums cleaned for $5,000. And I said, and my wife is, my wife is a little bit more by the book. So she's like, oh my God, you guys are so crazy. You just, I've been going there. I said, well, you got pretty gums. Obviously we're losers and we don't have the gums that you have. So you didn't go through the process. So they made me another appointment. I went to another dentist and it was in the $2,000 to $2,500. I don't remember the exact numbers. And again, I said, honey, don't send me to these people that are going to try to sell me something when I get there. I just want my teeth cleaned. I've never had a cavity in my life. My teeth are fine. I just want to get my teeth cleaned. I do believe in teeth cleaning, so I want to get my teeth cleaned. Right? Didn't happen because they want another $2,500. So out of the blue, my wife does the checklist for me. She's like, I have a somewhat dimwit of a husband, so I need to keep him in line. So she does a little checklist for me of things I need to do. I look at it one day and it says, you have teeth cleaning at this new dentist and you need to go in there and get your teeth cleaned. And I said, are these people going to, she goes, no, I already talked to them. They already know that how you feel about it. So they're not going to pressure you. And it's not going to be one of those deals. I go in and the first thing they say, they look at my teeth, they do the x-rays, they do all that stuff. And they say, you need to get your gums clean. We think for this reason and that reason. And then they showed me the cost. And this time it's like $338, I think was the exact total. I'll pay $338 if it's going to clean. But I went from just low number, $4,000 to $2,000 to $338 in the course of a year and a half trying to get my teeth cleaned in the state of Florida. And I don't know if it's all over the state, but it's just insane what you have to do. But I just want to bring that to people's attention because I think what happens is they have these industries that work with the insurance companies and then the state endorses it and they go, okay, well, in order to get your insurance, you have to get your gums cleaned in order to get your teeth cleaned. Therefore, you have to pay these fees. And I think what they do from that point is how much can you afford? When they saw that we had a nice income, it was $4,500. Now that they have no income, now it's $338.
Is this a new? I've never heard this gum.
This is in Florida. I don't know if this is all over the country. I don't know.
A new dental theory that I've not experienced yet.
I talked about it on the radio and got a ton of feedback from people that will go through the same thing. You go into these dentist office and it's like they're trying to sell you from the time you get in the chair. They wanted me to get something because they said I'm grinding my teeth. I said, grinding my teeth? I'm 56 years old. My teeth are fine. What do you $700 something they wanted me to pay for something to keep me from grinding my teeth. There was something else too. Oh, a water pick. They said, do you floss? And I said, not really. I said, on occasion. I said, I gargle with hydrogen peroxide. You need a water pick. And then I look on the bin. They've got all these things they're recommending for me to buy. I'm like, I just want to get my teeth. I don't know. I don't know. I don't even know what I am anymore. I'm the guy that's screaming, get off my lawn now. It's impressive.
Yeah, all right. I feel like that sometimes too.
Right. You guys got to tell me Amendment 7. Mike, what is your take? Amy, what is your take on Amendment 7? People are going to have to make a determination here very quickly. I don't think it's going to go through after Amendment 5, but what's your take?
Yeah. Let me do learning from G. Edward Griffin, the interview you had with him when he was talking about being very short and simple. He said,
"Hey, ready?
He thinks it's a scam.
It's a scam.
It's a scam. I think it's a scam.
Again?
Yeah. I mean, this is the Missouri Prosperity Fund. I think is what they're trying to call it. And
I mean, for creativity, right? If you're trying to come up with some cockamamie scheme, it's creative. Okay.
And of course, the premise is always something that we want. It's no more Missouri.
No more taxes.
No more taxes. Missouri state taxes. It was all it would affect. which would be
You
huge.
get to keep more of your money.
Yep, back to what the governor said. But it would take, by their own deal, generations to get enough money in it to do it. And in the meantime, they're going to turn it over to some fund to manage it. And that fund is very specific in what the fund has to match up with. And there's no bidding, and the treasurer gets to pick who the guy is. And he could make hundreds of millions of dollars a year for the next 40, 50 years before we even get close to having enough in it to talk about seeing the benefit for it.
And I think what we do is we say we support it so long as Act from Missouri gets to control the money.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Huh? Now we're talking, right? If you guys get to control the money. So you think it's a scam. My gut feeling is after looking at A5 that we can all fight about it.
That may be harsh, but
yeah, scam might be a little harsh word.
But
kind of a harsh word.
It's not feasible, especially when we're talking about a budget that's in crisis already. Where are we going to get the money?
Where's the money coming from?
You.
Right. I mean, where are we going to? Yeah, I guess if they would say, hey, we're going to do all these cuts and this extra money that we've now, reallocated, we've reduced the budget, and we're going to start this fund. Okay.
I think we need to just start telling them, because it's like the kid that doesn't want to do the one thing that he needs to do.
Exactly.
He comes up with everything else that he could possibly do instead of that. And you just have to refocus him back. No, we have to cut spending. We have to get government back to what government's supposed to be doing and nothing else.
I like Lisa's, 7 is the new 5. I love it.
Well, that's kind of the way I look at this. I'm thinking, I don't, even with A3, I don't want to get involved in a knockdown, drag out argument with people, because I really don't believe that A3 has any chance of passing. And that's just from my common sense, 30,000 foot view. I know I have people in my family that are left-leaning thinkers. They do not even consider the idea of stopping abortion. They think that is a woman's right, period, end of story. And I think that is going to, I think they'll be enthusiastic to get to the polls to, in their opinion, protect a woman's right to choose, right? They're going to be very motivated. And then you go to the right, and I know, Amy, you're on this, on this, well, within this position, you're like, I'm not going to endorse any form of abortion into our Constitution. I understand that it might be better than the way it is now, but I as a steward of the Lord, I am not going to say it's okay to abort some babies while not aborting others. And that is it's a ideological and an internal belief system, right? That people are not going to do. And I think that's, I think Lisa Panette said that's about 30% of people that are in pro-life. So if you divide 30-70 on the right, we already know this is a right down the middle issue for the most part, then there's no chance that this can pass. And I honestly believe that's why they want to do it. Ashley Leone agreed. She said the right and the left like it.
Oh, yeah.
It's huge. It's huge money. I mean, actually, we've talked about this. I feel like we need to dig more into the actual dollars and the mechanism, because I think it would probably explain more. This is an issue that's emotionally manipulating us.
Well, and it's also an issue that lets them play the Democrat versus Republican wedge between all of us, and then we end up with trying to fight off Amendment 5 and Amendment 7 type stuff when we never get to talk about the issues that we really need to deal with in this country to save the nation, and we get sidetracked with these fights that honestly, this isn't going to go away no matter what the vote comes on November. It's going to come back, and that's really what the goal is. And I think I did see Ashley on with you say that, and I was glad that she actually did admit to that. I was anxiously waiting to hear what her response to that question was going to be.
Me too. I was very anxious to see. I like people like Ashley. They come from their ideological bent is completely different than mine. I just like the idea that they will come on. People can make determinations on what she's saying. But again, if she's nice enough to come on the show and she sits around over an hour and answers questions, for me, that's a good public representative. I
really respect her for coming on.
Me too. And I may disagree, may vote different than her, but it gives her a chance to get out, and maybe she influences some people on our side. I get to beat it around with her a little bit so people can see the issues a little bit more clearly. I think it's great for society to have these conversations. And that's what I'd like. If you guys go on Real Talk anytime again soon, I don't know if you will, but if you do, ask them to have conversations between Democrats and Republicans, because right now what they're doing is they're having a lot of conversations between two Republicans that are splitting up the Republican Party. And maybe a better idea would be I'm not saying they shouldn't do that, But if I was to advise them, I'd say what you should do is put on events where the Democrats and Republicans are in a room, and then bring two civil people to have an intelligent conversation, not a back and forth screaming match where everybody's going, I believe the Democrats, I love the Republicans, but have them have a real conversation so that everybody's enlightened when they leave as to where people are coming from, and they're not demonized because they come from a different viewpoint. I think that would be much better for the state of Missouri than having two Republicans banter about Amendment 4, Amendment 5, Amendment 7, Amendment 3. Because I think ultimately what it does is most of these issues that we're arguing, there's not going to be much of a consensus on some of it. Abortion, you're not going to get a consensus that that religious people who are against abortion are all of a sudden going to go, you know what, some kids, we'll let them kill some kids. We're not going to, as long as they're killing less kids, that'll be better. So we'll let them kill some kids. I just don't think people are going to get there. And I think it's designed, as I said before, from Adam Schnelting, maybe not intentionally, but it's designed to fail. That's my take.
I feel like I'm with you. There's something more there. And I all want to go back to Ashley. You know, it was so nice because she was very respectful.
Yeah.
And it's crazy how you can get a Democrat who's actually and all our conversations with Democrats have been very respectful.
That's right.
And it's got mutually back and forth, yet we have received the worst treatment, the absolute worst treatment from our own side, and the worst treatment from the one organization that claims they are grassroots. Like, I can take the criticism from like Tim Jones and establishment. I get it, because I am upsetting the apple cart for them. We get it. I expect them to be mad because we are interfering in their sandbox. I'm good. But when we get the one group, Freedom Principle, that's grassroots, that's supposed to be helping us, and I know good grassroots people that are paying money to them to sit there and have their board members bully and be disrespectful and condescending to the exact people who are paying the money, blows my mind. Blows my mind. Way. You're paying to be talked shitty to. Amazing.
Well, think about it. If you're Freedom Principle, and again, I don't want to get it. I have my own, so it feels like I'm nitpicking them, but I'm just using them as an example because they're getting some brand name recognition out there.
They are, and I'm just like, people. I mean, like I said, we can talk with the Democrats and actually have a civil conversation, but yet it's the same people from Freedom Principle, and it drives me crazy. And I just put that up there because these are their board members. Their board members are some of the worst offenders online, being rude and crude and just argumentative and shitty and condescending. And then then I go look at their donor list and I'm like, these are such good grassroots people. And if you
I gotta see it then. Pop it up there. Who we got
there? There it is. Who do you think? Carrie Wells, Kirk, and Melissa. They're right there.
So Kirk Hilsinger was the one. He's doing a debate.
Yeah.
It's not a debate. I thought it was a debate with Jeffrey Jackson.
It's not a debate. I know. We were
listening a little bit earlier. I hope they have it. I guess they are having it. Oh. And I know Jake Jackson's going to be in there and he's going to ask some questions. I think it's a perfect opportunity for people that are in the know, that really understand how to ask questions. You got to learn how to ask questions. That's number one in journalism. You got to pose the question so somebody actually has to answer it. You can't give them too much wiggle room. And if you ask questions where you're looking for a specific answer that they can't answer, then everybody in the room will recognize when they start spinning it around in a circle. So I think that's a good thing that they're doing. I wish it were a debate. I'd like to see two people that could, go back and forth. I think there's going to be a presentation and then you ask questions, I think is what's going to go on there. But back to Freedom Principle. You have Kerry Wells, who said he was going to have a conversation with Wes Scroggins, Dr. Wes Scroggins about
backed out.
He backed out. Yeah, Kirk Hilsinger, who's not going to go in, and it's not really a debate; it's more of a forum.
Yep.
And this Melissa Thomas, as I understand, I had people that were telling me that she was calling me names behind my back and calling me a fake Christian and this kind of stuff. I don't know that to be true, but the people who told me that, I think they know what they're talking about.
I did debate Melissa Thomas on Amendment 4. We did in Marshall, Missouri. We had a public debate on that. So I will give her credit for coming out for holding that with us.
Do you think that they are, do you think that organization is really just aligned ideologically with the Republican Party? Or do you think that they are not aligned? I mean, are they aligned ideologically to where the Republican Party is, they think they're so right about what they're doing that they want to jump on board and fight for the Republican issues? Or do you think they are somehow funded through the same sources as the Republican Party, therefore they're saying the exact same thing? Do you guys have a sense of it after watching it?
Well, I think the evidence is that they supported everything that the Republican Party supports, especially in this election cycle. I think their philosophies is different. They like to have, they pitch, give us money because we have access to the players in the House and the Senate, and then when they go down there on their Wednesdays that they go to the Capitol, they take their groups around to meet with the Senator Brattons, and I think that's very important to them. And what we kind of realized is you only get that kind of access if you're doing what they want you to do. Not It's a one-way directional, it's a top-down directional, and I think that's, whether it's on purpose or by just the way it works out, I think that's what we've ended up with.
Well, and here's what my concern is. The fish stick, it always sounds like the saying goes, the fish stinks from the head down. So if the board of directors and Byron Keeling, and he's jumped in too a couple times, and I noticed he started to take the same tone, condescending, critical, doesn't want to debate, we're fools, they know it all. Okay, they're doing the 82 Alliance, and now all their candidates that got in. So do you not think they're not going to take the same attitude that the organization, management people, the board of directors, and the leader, those elected are going to take the same tone? Why wouldn't they? They're right, you're wrong, I don't need to listen to you. I'm very concerned about those candidates now that are going to be that they've made their seat. They're just, now we've got another layer. Now we've not only got the establishment crappy candidates, now we've got the 82 Alliance candidates that are already wonderful parrots of talking points. I mean, excellent. Amy DeClue is the best. So I'm like, are you thinking on your own, or are you just repeating? If you're repeating, I'm not interested. So then if you challenge her, is she going to say, you don't know what you're talking about? I have access and I'm the one. Well, then, great. What have we done? And we funded it. The grassroots funded it.
Yeah, I'm keeping a close eye on that situation because, like Amy DeClue, for example, I don't know Amy DeClue. A good person, bad. I have no idea. All I know is that she's running for office in Franklin County. I know that there's a man in Franklin County that
was, and she won't. She will not touch it. She won't touch it.
I want to find out if she touches it. That's really
she won't touch it.
People,
she won't even touch. She was working as a nurse, and I'm sure people have tried to ask her, did you do Remdesivir? Were you good with the vaccine? She won't address it.
It's very interesting because I'm really looking at people in Franklin County. And that means there's John Simmons out there. There is Ben Brown is out there. Amy DeClue is running for office out there. There's a few other ones that I pay attention to.
Brad Vanderman.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Vanderman. Yep,
and I look at these people and I say, if you do not come to the defense of Jeffrey Winehouse, then there is 0.00 chance that I won't absolutely do everything I can to keep you from getting elected. Look, there's an obviously innocent man. This isn't up for debate. I mean, anybody that's paid any ounce of attention to this case. I had somebody texting me last night and said, Rob, I went to the jury selection. Did you know that every judge in Franklin County recused themselves on this case, and they brought in a judge from Kansas City? He said the whole thing was ridiculous. He goes, I recognized it right away. I watched the trial. I watched the jury selection. It was a farce. They were framing this man, and they were going to put him in prison. Wow. For doing what I'm doing, for being very critical and saying that we're going to do something about it to the powerful people in this state. And if you have representatives that don't recognize that an innocent man has been in prison for 13, coming up on 14 years on a 30-year sentence for something he videotaped, you know that he didn't do what they said he did because you can watch it on videotape, then I don't need you as a public servant because you're not a public servant under that scenario because you've ignored justice for your people. Therefore, you don't have the right to serve, in my opinion. And I mean that every single one of them, because when they open back up, I wonder what's going to happen to me because I'm going to be very forceful on this. This is one that from an emotional standpoint, the Jeffrey Winehouse case, very emotional to me. I can see my eyes when I look at him. I can see exactly where he's coming from. Here's somebody that wanted justice for people that were being abused. He got very upset about it. He started talking about it. He was getting a little bit over the top in some people's eyes. And then 13 seconds after he gets out of a car, after they used tricks to steal his computers and his phones, a police officer that had drugs in his system shot him twice in the chest and twice in the forehead. And the Supreme Court of Missouri knows it. Governor Kehoe knows it. The people in Franklin County know it. The sheriff in Franklin County knows it. Every single person that paid attention to that case knows exactly what they did to him, and they are not coming to his defense. And I find it despicable.
Sure makes you wonder.
Makes it a
Makes
little
you-
bit evil, if you understand what I'm
Mhm.
saying. And I would not vote for anybody who doesn't make a public statement that they're going to do everything they can to get that man out of prison. And if I don't see that coming out of the people of Franklin County, then I'm going to speak out against them, and I'm going to go to Moe's, and I'm going to go to all of their little town halls and all of their little meetings when they're trying to get people to vote for them and say, wait a minute, this is an easy one for you guys. Why are you not taking the chance? And why aren't you telling people that you're going to fight hard to get this man out of prison? Because all they got to do is get clemency from Kehoe. So if Kehoe wants them to sign any of the legislation, the Republican Party says, well, then get this man out of prison and we'll start talking about your Amendment 7s. But out until that point, you have an obviously innocent man sitting in prison, and we want him out.
Well, makes you wonder what he knows.
He knows. If you talk to be honest with you, he talks from prison, and I quit communicating with him for a little bit. And he probably is like, what happened to Robb? And I tell people around him, I said, listen, I don't want every conversation I have to be, I know they're taping it. And he does not care. I mean, this guy is, he tells you the people, the names, what went down, how it went down, what the process was. And I keep thinking to myself, I'm uncomfortable because I know that line is being taped from prison. It's uncomfortable for me to have the conversations with him because I'm like, man, I just feel like one of these days I'm going to wake up and you're not going to be here anymore because if there's any place they can get you, it's in prison. So maybe we just keep that quiet, and I'll work on my own here because I know what's going on. And
let's try to get him out.
Get him out and then let him talk. Exactly. All right.
But I'm just saying, to go to that degree to frame this guy.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. There's something very serious that he knows. It's going to take down a lot of people. And I'm sure that even if you ask, I'm sure probably the Franklin reps have asked, hey, I hear about this. What do you think about this? They're being told, don't touch it.
Exactly.
Don't mention it. Don't touch it. It's probably either Byron or Tim Jones or somebody in that, chain of command.
That's been my take. My take is somebody's telling them they need to just be quiet about it for whatever reason. And because other than that, a decent person would say, I have a little bit of power here. I'm going to use it because
absolutely
I prefer justice, and this is not justice. Fair enough?
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, Mike, if we get in the gulags, you guys, you got to come rescue us. Everybody listening.
I will come for you.
Find the best constitutional lawyer you can. Mike and I always laugh. He's like, we're going to end up in the gulag. And I'm like, yeah, probably.
When you're in the gulag, I'll be sitting right next to you. And hopefully Isaiah will come to our defense. We have no idea. We have no idea where he's at. There's the book. Keeping the Republic. Mike Conley.
Please check it out.
And where do they find it, Mike, again?
They can find it at keepingtherepublicbook.com or just go to Amazon. And it is also available on the website, keepingtherepublicbook.com, on audio now. I
think this is something where if you have, the way I would look at it is as a parent, if you have a child in high school age, this is something you say, listen, kids, you get your car, you get your allowance, you get whatever you're looking for. But before you get it, I want you to read this book because I want you to be a good citizen in this world that you're growing up in. And I want you to understand how the world works. So check out Keeping the Republic.
You might send it to your state rep and state senator too. They might need to
I think you should. If you give me signed copies, I'll take it directly to him when Isaiah and I go to Jefferson City and say maybe.
I bet Mike can set up some automation through Act for Missouri where you can set an order and it automatically mails it to their office.
We could probably do that. Yeah.
Amen. All right, you guys. Thanks, Amy. I know you're on vacation. Tell Kid I said hello. I appreciate you guys.
Actually, not vacation. We're at an automatic transmission rebuilding conference, and we had a presentation last night that we had to do. So yeah, we're here representing the automotive transmission industry.
I thought you guys were having a little getaway together, but I guess it's a getaway with some work involved.
Well, it's a getaway, yeah, but some work. Yeah.
All right. Well, have fun. Be safe, Mike. Great to see you. We'll see you guys next Thursday. I'm sure we'll talk before then. Have a great.
Take care, you guys. Take care, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Bye bye.
See you guys.
All right, Isaiah, let me get eXp Realty in here real fast. She just this woman is selling homes very quickly, so maybe something's going on good for her, or she's just good at selling homes because Debbie Genus is kicking.
Well, it doesn't seem like the industry is doing well, but it seems like she's doing well.
I know. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. We gotta spread the news. But eXp Realty, this is somebody who has been paying attention to our show. I agree. I would think that she probably is not on the same page with us all the time either, Isaiah, as most people aren't. But again, I always say, if you want our profile to grow, we are doing it through supporters. These are the people that are paying for the operation. They're paying for the lights. They're paying for the desk. They're paying for the services. They're paying for my time. They're paying for Isaiah's time. They're paying so that we can put this on. This is how we have it laid out because we are small business advocates more so than anything else. I am somebody who desperately believes that you must deconsolidate power. If you allow for corporate power to swallow up your entire country, then you're going to get a corporate world. And trust me when I tell you, as somebody who worked in it, you're not going to like the corporate world for very long. You might like it at the beginning. It's like heroin,
The
right?
money's
Take
nice
heroin
at
for the
first,
first
right?
time. Yeah, you do cocaine for the first time, and you're like, oh, that's kind of nice. And then all of a sudden, you're addicted to it, and your life spins out of trouble or spins into trouble. That's exactly what the corporate world is like. Don't allow that corporate entity to become your governing system, which is what's happening now. Pay attention to these small businesses. That is Debbie Genius. Again, if you have a house for sale, if you're going to sell a home, if you're going to buy a home, she's been around the game for 28 years. So coming up on 30 years, 28 years and 14 years in insurance. She knows how to protect you when you're buying a home. She knows how to get money for you when you're selling a home. EXP Realty, Debbie Genius, 314-482-9205, 314-482-9205, Deborah.Genius@exprealty.com. Buying or selling a home, this is our person, Debbie Genius. You'll meet her on September the 18th. She'll be in the front row when we do People's Lobby, Missouri. And then Isaiah, it is lunchtime. And when it's lunchtime, it's Moe's Pizza in Washington, Missouri, at the corner of Grand and 5th Street. God owns the place. He just works there. Pizza and salad bar, chicken wings, sandwiches, burgers, ice cream, family environment, great people, great time out there at Moe's Pizza. When it's time for lunch, when it's time for dinner, get out to Moe's Pizza. There they are. Mike and Brenda Johns, great people. Love them. If you have any kind of gathering, this is another big piece of their business. If you have any kind of gathering, whether it be birthday parties, anniversaries, political meetings, or Bible studies, always keep in mind that you can get out to Moe's Pizza and they'll treat you like family, old school, where they actually care about you. Get out there and enjoy yourselves with the banquet space available at Moe's Pizza. Again, birthday parties, anniversaries, political meetings, and Bible studies. Moe's Pizza, when it's time for lunch and you're in Franklin County or you're in Washington, Missouri, get there. All right.
You got kids or grandkids, man, let me tell you, that is the place to take them for a buffet. I think it's $2.
It's the place to be.
So
is it really $2 for kids?
That's what my wife told me.
Wow. All right. I didn't even know that. So it's another
It
one.
might be a certain age, you know.
And who delivers?
DoorDash. DoorDash delivers now. So
you used to knock that out for me every time, and you've been a little slipping at your work. I'll tell Mike that we got to get
I
you.
don't want to slip it in every time. I think that it's good to,
okay,
switch it up and have a little.
You're telling me this is your plan?
Yes.
Okay, I got you. All right,
just
everybody.
like the government,
Tomorrow,
data centers, the flock camera. There was a plan.
You have a plan. Tomorrow we have. I had her on the show once before. Her name is Dr. Mimi Syed, and she's going to come on with this is going to be a really interesting conversation. Now, Mimi is not a Muslim. She's a doctor. She cares about people. So she went to Gaza. I've had several people that have experiences in Gaza during the war that is happening. She'll be on tomorrow. She's a doctor. She went there to see it and to help people. And she has some incredible experiences that she will share with you. And she's got articles. I think she's got somebody coming on who wrote an article about what is happening and what we can do. I think it's going to be a wild conversation. If you can only imagine what life is like for some of these people. And then as an American citizen, a well-to-do American citizen that would take their time and energy to go to Gaza in the middle of a war and try to piece kids back together. Fascinating stories. She's going to tell you the things that she witnessed over there. And I think you'll really be enlightened, if you will, about the situation over in Gaza.
Yeah, lots of resilience over there is what I've noticed. Is
big
that
time.
Despite the pressure and despite the buildings being destroyed, you see them having their UN tents that they gave them, these tents from the UN essentially. And I saw a video of these guys. You know what they're doing is they're sitting there, they're day trading, Rob. They're working in the midst of the rubble in their little tents and they're day trading, trying to carry on as if everything, is normal because they still got to make money, still got to provide.
Still trying to survive.
Exactly. And so that was one thing that I was impressed by, that, man, I think that if that was America, you know what I'm saying? If we were in that kind of devastation, I don't know if that kind of hope would be out there on the streets.
Exactly. Well, I think they've been at it for so long, Isaiah. It's just like anything else. You're used to this kind of treatment, and
very true.
It becomes a part of your life. It's
the same in Israel, because the bombs will come in,
exactly,
and then you'll see the mom pushing. Before the sirens are done going, you'll see the mom pushing her stroller down the street outside, and that's just the nature of where it is.
Constant survival mode.
Yeah.
All right, Isaiah, great to see you. We'll see everybody again tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. on the Robb Carter Show. And I want everybody to remember, if you're still listening and you haven't signed off yet, we are going to start putting our clip campaign together. We've been doing it through AI, and I'm not a big fan of AI doing the clips for us, but it's time consuming. So I'm going to start putting out the clips that will tell the story that we want people to see. You have to sign up. How do people sign up for because we have two The Rob Carter Show websites. Which one do we want to send people to, Isaiah? Because one of them is a little bit more personal. That's got like 1,700 friends of mine that I've met throughout life. There might be maybe 10% that are.
Oh yeah, so just go to if you go to
where's the big one?
Yeah, so if you go to Facebook and you look for The Rob Carter Show, it's you'll see Rob's personal page called Rob Carter, but you also see the Rob Carter Show Facebook page, which as I'm talking right now, I'm working to pull the page up, Rob. So I'll share it here so everyone can see. But this is one page you're going to want to go, even if you're not a big Facebook person, you're going to want to go follow, because something that we are working on in the background that we haven't talked a lot about is that on YouTube, we have these things called memberships now. And I'll make my screen a little bit bigger so people can see me, but we got memberships now on YouTube, and we've got memberships, or they're called subscriptions on Facebook, where we can set up just a low dollar amount subscription for exclusive content that we can start producing for you guys. And that's something that Rob and I have talked about, is different videos or interviews, and that we're not necessarily going to do live, but they're pre-recorded, a good way to maybe help us raise some money, because typically a lot of these interviews we're going to have to go to and travel to these people. So it's going to cost us money to get these interviews done. And so a way we can maybe recoup some of those costs is by making the content exclusive at first, maybe for a week or 2 weeks. This is very typical in a lot of these social media creators. Patreon, I'm sure people are familiar with that, things of that nature. And so these are things you're going to want to follow with us, because specifically now with Facebook, now that I got this pulled up, you can see we've got 12,000 followers here. That's a great audience that we have, and we will be able to reach more people.
How we get to 12,000 already? So that means we picked up 700,
Rob,
750 yesterday.
Just since yesterday. Yeah.
Wow.
And so it's continually to grow and grow and grow. The video is almost at 400,000. It might be past 400,000 views already for that one video. We've got multiple over 10,000 views now, but you're definitely going to want to pay attention here, because Rob and I were talking yesterday, and there's some content that we think is good for Facebook, but may not be as applicable to maybe X, right? Or it may not be as applicable to Rumble. That's what we were talking about yesterday, Rob. And so, that's why I want people to go follow the Facebook page, because I know we're not the biggest pushers of Facebook. They censor us a lot. But the other thing that Rob and I were talking about is there's a strategy to what we're trying to do. We're trying to get these clips out there because we know that not everyone's going to watch 3 hours of the show every day.
They
can't. And we know that
they might not be interested.
And they might not be interested.
Somebody will say, Rob, I don't care about, I'm like, well then, on that day, don't watch it. I do that. There's people that I watch, and if they have a guest that I want to see, or if there's something going on in the news, I want to hear from that person, I'll check it out. But we understand it. Yeah. So what we're saying is, on these formats, like Facebook and X and so forth, we can get the information. We can cut out 3 hours and say, this was a really important segment that we did. This is 2 minutes that people really need to know. And we can begin to take pieces from this show, conversation that we have from the show, and put it out there, so that if you don't have the time to spend 3 hours a day, which I recommend that you do, of course, but you can go there and get the highlights of the day. And I think people will really start to recognize when you get 3 hours, you do get overwhelmed with information, no matter who you are. This will really clarify what we're trying to get across to people. And I think
we even talked about how we watch Joe Rogan, and I think maybe 1 or 2 shows ever that you and I have actually sat down and watched from beginning to end for Joe Rogan, who's a similar style.
Long car rides. That's all I've ever done. Long car ride. I listened to him one time.
So go follow us on Facebook there, on that new Facebook page, The Rob Carter Show. That's going to be, Rob's already got a video he's working on right now that he told me before we logged on this morning. That'll be posted on there. So give us a follow there. It's going to be, we're not as performative as Alex Jones is with a lot of how we promote and encourage people, but it really is true what he says, is that you guys, we're all the Paul Reveres of today. And that's what young people like myself really believe. And social media is BB is right. Social media is the 8th front of the war, and we can still win it, even with them censoring us, if we have enough people that are pushing it, that are sharing the content. You're getting an army, and that's what Dr. Shiva is doing right now. He's building that Truth, Freedom, Health army. And so that's how we can build our army for the Rob Carter Show, is just getting you to follow these different social media platforms, so that, just like Rob said, when something's put out, we can make sure to let you know it's put out, and you can go engage with it. And unfortunately, they've created their algorithms that if people engage with it enough, it will be shown to more people.
Yeah.
So that's a disadvantage that they have.
That's
that
right.
We can kind of work to our advantage, if that makes sense.
And we'll
so,
start great conversation on there
Yeah.
too, as we get to develop this. And I have a little bit more time in my life because right now I'm a little spread thin. But as we get a little more time in our life, we're gonna bring up the conversations about
Yeah.
Amendment 3, Amendment 4, Amendment 5, Amendment 7. We're gonna talk about things that are interesting to people, and then you can see from our family how we're responding to it. How do people think? You'll get a real understanding of where the public is on certain issues, and maybe instead of fighting with them all the time and telling them they're idiots, just hear their point of view. So long as we're being respectful, hear their point of view. And I think you learn a lot when you communicate with people effectively, right?
Yes.
If you, it's just for me, it's a better environment than the screaming and yelling and shock value of everything that's going on. I think we're in a serious time.
Don't you feel you have more in common?
We're in a
with people?
serious time, Isaiah. Would you agree that it's
Yeah.
a serious time to understand
Very.
what's going on in the world, and let's have a conversation about it without hating each other? It's much more fun to spread love than it is hate. So we'll spread some love, but we'll challenge people. We're not going to be pushovers, that's for sure. Isaiah, have a great day. I got to go get these. When I come back tomorrow, these will be the most clean teeth and the most spectacularly clean gums you have ever seen in your life tomorrow. I'm going to start the program by showing you my teeth that should be spectacular
Look at the X-rays.
because of the cost. Exactly. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Mimi Saeed. She's going to give us her experience in Gaza as a doctor. I think that will blow some people's minds. Isaiah, I'll call you a little bit later on. Have a great day, everybody.
See you guys.